racing through a lightning storm shining with infinite rays of lights. Sitting inside the cockpit, Xu Jing witnessed a scene that left him stunned. All over the sky above him, the stars themselves seemed a fingertip away. A radiant dazzling star's light enveloped him in a galaxy of images, each one unique in its own way. Visions of divinely bewitching girls appeared as they paused and gazed at him unceasingly, eyes full of never-ending resentment, with overwhelming heroic spirit, with gentleness like jade, with peerless gracefulness. Indescribably beautiful feelings well up as Xu Jing completely lost his ability to comprehend language. Xu Jing, the Republic's youngest Air Force military major, turned 21 years old this year. He was the country's most outstanding young ace pilot, and his job was to test fly the latest fourth-generation fighter aircraft, the J-14 Peregrine Falcon. This time, the exercise was especially important, as both the chairman of the Central Military and the Army General would be personally attending the event. Xu Jing was completely focused and did not dare to falter. Just as Xu Jing engaged supersonic speed at a height of 10,000 meters above sea level, a bright storm cloud came out of nowhere and enveloped the entire aircraft. After passing through the lightning storm, he encountered the beautiful scene that caused him to almost lost his mind. A streak of starlight shot towards Xu Jing's body. His head felt like it was about to split apart, jolting him awake with fear. Countless illusions poured through him. The fuzzy fantastical scene finally ended. Headquarters. This is Falcon 00, there is an abnormal situation. Xu Jing gritted his teeth. He endured the pain he was suffering while attempting to transmit an emergency report to the control center on the ground. The communication system remained silent. Following that, Xu Jing was surprised to discover that all the electronic systems on the aircraft were completely out of order. The temperature inside the aircraft began to slowly climb. Xu Jing felt like he was inside a furnace. J-14-00 losing control, pilot Xu Jing is requesting permission to use the parachute. Xu Jing issued the emergency request as beads of sweat slide down his forehead. Damn it! Xu Jing quietly cursed. J-14-00 losing control, pilot Xu Jing requesting permission to use the parachute. J-14-00 losing control, pilot Xu Jing requesting permission to use the parachute. J-14-00 losing, thank you for the country's contribution, I'm jumping. Liangshan Continent. Thousand Mount Kingdom, Clear Wilderness Highland. Smoke and dust billowed upwards as horses gallops across the grassland. A cavalry squad made up of 60 soldiers were thunderously howling while aggressively pursuing a target, their demeanors gleeful and proud. The prey they were currently chasing was not a wild wolf nor a deer, but a 17 or 18-year-old girl. This young girl was running as swift as the wind, even faster in comparison to the horses chasing her. But of course, there were limits to her endurance. After a few minutes, her pace slowed down. The cavalry took this chance to split up and surround her. A young man wearing a white robe came forward on horseback and snickered, "Beauty, you should obediently become my star knight. Do you think the Clear Wilderness Castle's young master would mistreat you?" The girl looked up, her chest puffed outward. Even though she was surrounded by the cavalry, her expression remained composed. Her courageous eyes looked at him with a hint of disdain. "You think you have the qualifications?" Haha, rumors about the Star Knight's arrogance are definitely true. In order to make a contract, aside from making you willingly submit, one can only beat you half to death. The white-robed young man laughed loudly while raising his whip. Brothers, let her have a little taste of the Clear Wilderness Castle cavalry's power. The grassland resounded with excited roars. Over 50 cavalrymen armed with spears, lances and sabers leapt forward on horseback. The girl's expression remained unchanged except for a slight smile full of contempt. "You all wish to die that badly? Fine." Her hands curled around the empty air and a shining frosty spear instantly appeared in her grip. The spear shot forward while emitting a fierce killing intent, piercing its way through from armor to armor. Before anyone noticed, the first two soldiers at the front have already lost their heads. Kill. The remaining members of the squad became enraged when they saw this. The shining spear continued to lunge forward mercilessly. An armored soldier who had just raised his own spear suddenly discovered a massive hole in his chest. The girl didn't try to retrieve her spear. On the contrary, she used the momentum as leverage to jump forwards and forced the spear to swipe in an arc. Only sounds of metal cracking apart resounded before 10 decapitated heads flew high up into the sky. The soldiers from behind were struck with terror, their arms wildly swinging their weapons. The young girl's movements were extremely fast. She killed swiftly and decisively, causing everyone's face to pale in fear. She casually slaughtered her way through the squad, easily avoiding their attempt at catching her. The air in the surrounding area slowly became submerged in a fine red mist. Horrified shrieks continuously echoes throughout the plain. The originally confident white-robed youths turned ashen pale. Moments later, more than 50 cavalrymen turned into 50 unrecognizable mutilated corpses. By the time the young girl shifted her cold eyes back towards the youth, he was already so scared he immediately planted his knees on the ground. "Please, don't." The tip of her spear stopped inches from his face. Xu Jing sat on the grass and looked at the distant smoke column rising while sighing deeply. As the #1 ace pilot of his country, he crash-landed the latest aircraft J-14 in its very first official flight. Truly, it will be quite difficult to look others in the eyes for a long time. After he checked and discovered no problematic injuries on his body, he stood up to investigate the surrounding, unable to suppress a strange feeling welling inside his heart. This exercise was done at a top-secret airbase, not in the current grassland where he was at. Did the J-14 flew so fast in its supersonic mode it had already traveled out of bounds? Although he was still puzzled, Xu Jing was too lazy to question it any further. The most important thing right now was to head towards the crash site. Xu Jing quickly made his way to a valley. In front of him was a painful scene. Fourth-generation fighter aircraft J-14, the pride and joy of his country, currently looked like it was run over by a bulldozer. It was completely smashed into pieces. As Xu Jing wandered around the site, he suddenly caught sight of a nearby young woman's petite figure passing out on the creek. His heart jumped and silently cursed. The Air Force had a very serious policy. If a mechanical failure happens while flying in residential zones, the pilot was forbidden from abandoning the plane. Even though he was the so-called ace, he would also be heavily reprimanded if harm comes to civilians. He quickly ran over and brought the girl to shore. It looks like the girl was having a bath, her whole body was soaked, a piece of white cloth barely hanging onto her completely naked body. As Xu Jing lifted her up to bring her ashore, her gown parted and casually revealed a magnificent pair of towering peaks, causing Xu Jing's blood to boil. Luckily, as a soldier, he had undergone intense physical and mental training. Xu Jing was able to hold on to a piece of his judgment as he brought the girl to a flat bed of grass, and quickly covered her up with the gown. The girl's face was pale and her body showed no obvious wounds. She must have been knocked out by the pressure emitted during the impact, but unfortunately, she passed out inside the creek and she must have ended up drinking quite a lot of water. Thinking of this, Xu Jing hurriedly laid her down and lifts up her cute little nose. He took a deep breath and knelt down to perform artificial respiration. The moment their lips touched, Xu Jing suddenly felt a powerful suction force coming from inside the girl's body, locking his lips with hers tightly. Something damp and fragrant made its way towards his tongue, binding it. His skin grew red like it was on fire. Xu Jing discovered a dazzling star symbol shining on the girl's forehead. Before he had the time to think about what it meant, his own forehead began burning with pain, as if somebody was carving onto it using the tip of a sword. Even though Lin Chong does not enjoy your nonsensical talks, we have already signed a Star Duel Covenant. I will abandon my own prejudices. Lin Chong spoke, conflicted. What is the Star Duel Covenant? Xu Jing's eyes were wide opened. Is it something to do with Star Wars? Lin Chong's face sank. She asked with a lowered voice, please don't tell this servant master isn't aware of things like star masters and star maidens? Shu Jing spread his hands and shrugged. It was exactly as Lin Chong guessed. Lin Chong bit her lips until it nearly bled. She was the famous Majestic star Lin Chong. In the end, how did she end up contracting with an idiot who doesn't even know anything? What kind of farce was this? Seeing that this man still didn't fully comprehend the gravity of the current situation, Lin Chong attempted to explain. Star Duel was the most important event in Liangshan continent. Every 108 years, 108 stars will appear along with their representative 108 maidens. Each maiden possessed powerful martial arts and abilities. All star maidens are able to sign a star duel covenant with a star cultivator. The contractor will then become their master for the rest of their lives. In Mount Liang continent, a star cultivator is someone who possesses star energy. When a star cultivator is contracted with a star knight, they become a star master, and they will head to Liangshan Maiden's domain. Why are star duel covenants contracts made? Of course for battles. What do you fight for? For your wish. Legend says, once there is only one final star left in the sky, Liangshan Maiden will descend and grant the winner their wish. That's the Liangshan Maiden's domain. Lin Chong points toward the massive pillar in the distance that seems like it was holding up the very sky itself. But why must I follow the rules of some third-rate novel plot and risk my life? Shu Jing frowned and blurted. Lin Chong was stunned. She had never questioned the meaning behind this ritual. But Lin Chong wasn't going to admit to the idiotic man in front of her she actually had no idea. Instead, she glared at him. Everybody has something they truly desire. Does Master not have something he wishes for? Shu Jing slowly realized something. Yeah, it seems like I am just like everyone else. Perhaps to the Liangshan maiden far in the distance, his wish to go home could also be called a desire. Meanwhile at Clear Wilderness Castle, sobbing wails could be heard echoing across the entire castle. Even the inhabitants far outside the mansion could not help but frown from the tragic sound. I must kill that bitch. I will make her my slave and ruin her. Lying on his bed, a castrated young man viciously howled. He was the white-robed youth who previously suffered at Lin Chong's hands, Clear Wilderness Castle young master. Currently, his mother was comforting him with a face full of tears. Ming'er, don't worry, mother will definitely make this right. Standing next to her, a man disagreed. You reap what you sow. I already told him, even though the freezing cloud ice crystal was taken away, we must not pursue. Did he think it would be easy to make these heaven-descended slayers submit to your will? The woman turned around and angrily rebuked, Husband, what are you saying? Ming'er was beaten to this point by that vicious woman. As the lord of the castle, you still want to defend that she-demon? Father, please help me seek justice. The young man loudly wailed with tears streaming down his face. I heard when you sign a star duel covenant with a star knight, it's possible for the body to be reborn. For the sake of your lineage, you must bring that accursed fiend back here. The woman sobs. Nonsense. The man heartlessly scolded, that person is Majestic star Lin Chong, how could Clear Wilderness Castle possibly have the means to oppose her? Why must my son suffer such a terrible fate? Ah! Hearing this, the woman broke down and cried even louder. My lord, there is a self-proclaimed star master named Sun Huo wanting an audience. A servant reported from outside the room. The woman immediately stopped crying and looked at him. My lord, how could the castle lord not understand what his wife meant? He laughed deeply. The star master couldn't have come at a better time. At the castle hall, a young man around 23 years of age was currently sitting down drinking tea. His face was as white as pearl, stately and handsome, enhanced by his elegant green robe. Serving him was a young girl wearing a long dress with a slender body. At a glance, one can tell she was no ordinary maid. The Clear Wilderness Castle lord was much more wary of the young lady in comparison to the man beside her. Her silk dress was bright red and her hair was a shade of crimson. Her eyes were a deep shade of bloody vermilion, and each piercing glance from them invoking great fear. I thank young Master Sun for gracing us with your visit. What I can do for you? Clear Wilderness Castle Lord respectfully asked. Sun Hua casually glanced over, sipped tea and replied, I heard your castle possesses a rare treasure called Freezing Cloud Ice Crystal. It just so happened I have a need for it. Set the price, I will pay it. Clear Wilderness Castle Lord gave a pained smile. I'm afraid the young master will be disappointed. You don't want to sell? The servant girl slammed the table, her voice overbearing with a hint of threat. The single slam caused cracks to appear all over the solid wooden desk. Sun Hua lifted his hands, motioning the girl to calm down. The castle lord bitterly explained, I will not hide it from young master, not long ago a thief have come and stolen away the crystal. My son had then brought a squad of guards to pursue the thief, but who would have thought it would turn out to be a star knight? The entire squad was instantly wiped out. My son was luckily only sent back home castrated with an inch of life left. Sun Ho glanced at the girl and lightly nodded. She immediately used her divine intent to sweep the entire inner palace. She then smiled indecently. Yes, he is indeed a eunuch. Do you know which star maiden it was? Sun Ho sips the tea while maintaining his aloof atmosphere. A small mistake already led to the death of dozens of our warriors. How could we have the time to identify the culprit? The castle lord sighed. Seeing Sun Ho in deep thought, the castle lord suddenly made a request. If young master would take revenge for my son, Clear Wilderness Castle will be indebted. Finished speaking, he signaled the servant with a look. From outside a soldier brought in a chest. At a glance, one could see about 100 gold taels was inside along with some precious jewelry. I was just about to set off to retrieve the ice crystal, now I will also lend you a hand by bringing her back here to be contracted. A smile appeared on Sun Ho's face as he spoke. My incompetent son cannot handle the matters of star masters, everything will be handed over to young master to manage. The castle lord replied in panic. He wasn't an idiot. In these star duels, star knights would be fighting each other on behalf of their masters. Was there any star master stupid enough to hand over a star knight to others to contract and create more enemies? What's more, the person in question is Pantherhead Lin Chong, how could he make her submit? I will order the cavalry to follow and support young master. No need, all I require is a horse, bringing more people will just get in my way. Sun Ho pursed his lips and swung his arms, causing the chest of gold to instantly disappear. I will immediately send the orders. Quickly, prepare the fastest horse for Sun young master. The castle lord loudly exclaimed. Liked it? The grassland was beautiful during night time. The Milky Way belt was like a ribbon stretched across the night sky with countless stars twinkling like gems. Among them, several were distinctively bright. These stars each had a halo of light, some of which glowed a deep red color in contrast to the others. Ingmei, are those strange stars the 108 destinies stars you spoke about? Xu Jing looked up at the sky while feeling a deep sense of awe and admiration. By the way, the girl's real name was Lin Ingmei. Lin Chong was actually just her combat title. This definitely brought Xu Jing, who was familiar with water margin, some consolation. At least he doesn't need to constantly call out Lin Chong Lin Chong. Leaning against a rock, Lin Ingmei furrowed her brows. She was not in the mood to answer his dumb questions. Ingmei, what is the meaning of those red stars? Xu Jing was endlessly curious about this world, and was unfazed by Lin Ingmei's dismissive attitude. Those stars are called crimson stars, they represent the stars that have successfully signed a star dual covenant contract. Whilst looking with her half-closed eyes, she replied quietly. Xu Jing silently counted at least 30 stars were red. Which crimson star is ours? Xu Jing asked. Lin Ingmei looked up and searched seriously for a moment, and then awkwardly coughed. She actually had no idea which one it was. According to what you told me, the star duel began over a year ago. By now only some 30 contracts have been signed. The efficiency seems to be quite bad. Master, you need to know that these contracts are very serious matters. Lin Yingmei frowned at Xu Jing's nonchalant tone. As if Star Duel's covenants were commonplace occurrences. In reality, these Star Maidens adopt a very long-term outlook when choosing their Star Master. These matters pertain to the fate of their entire lives, of course they wouldn't treat it lightly. The most powerful cultivators were the most popular, followed by cultivators possessing formidable weapons or martial arts. Some were also chosen for their innate potential. That's why there was a saying in Mount Liang continent, in order to contract with a Star Maiden, one must first conquer her. Of course, there were also cases of Star Maidens falling in love and contracting with common ordinary people, but the chance of this happening was truly small. What's more, at the end of every Star Duel, these couples were the ones most likely to prematurely perish together. Hearing this, Xu Jing sighed. These Star Maidens are also quite realistic. Are you afraid I will drag you down? Xu Jing frowned. Is it possible to annul the contract? Lin Ying suddenly opened her eyes and looked strangely at Xu Jing. Master, what are you talking about? If Star Masters are so important to Star Knights, since I don't know anything, I am not able to be of any help to you. Annulling the contract is also no big deal to me. Xu Jing honestly replied. He originally came from the modern world, these types of whatever contracts did not really hold any appeal to him. However, to Lin Yingmei, Xu Jing's words set off a monstrous storm brewing within her heart. Mount Liang continent was filled with countless star cultivators who would shamelessly employ any method or scheme to sign a contract with a Star Maiden. To be able to contract with the majestic star Lin Chong was something these star cultivators can only dream of. Seeing Xu Jing speaking sincerely without a trace of deceit, Lin Yingmei's cold expression became slightly warmer. However, her tone remained stern. Master, you are insulting this Lin Chong. Contracts are matters of fate. For the rest of my life, I will devote myself to protecting you, even to death. Your words makes me so emotional, I can't even stand up. For better or worse, Xu Jing was still an Air Force military major. Cowering behind a girl wasn't exactly what he wanted. It's better if you teach me how to protect myself. Lin Yingmei gently nodded at his words. Even though Yingmei had more than once regretted the fact she had signed a contract with this strange man, her master didn't seem to be so useless. Maybe one day he could grow to truly take control of her, the majestic star. Your servant understands. A galloping white horse suddenly stopped. A young man sitting on the horse looked toward the rolling hills in the distance, his eyes concealing mysterious thoughts. Sitting behind him, the red-haired girl sneered, the traces are still fresh, they shouldn't be too far away. Qing'er, which star do you think this Star Knight belongs to? Sun Ho wondered. No matter what star she belongs to, I will burn her up to the point where even her ashes won't remain. The girl said in a haughty tone. Could Master be scared? Sun Ho replied with disdain, something seems abnormal. Why would a Star Knight loudly announce their appearance at Clear Wilderness Highland? The Star Duels have begun, all the weak Star Knights should be keeping a low profile while enhancing their strength. Master think this Star Knight is possibly a heavenly spirit? Qing'er smiled cruelly, if so it would be even better, absorbing a heaven spirit would benefit Master's star energy greatly. Just to be on the cautious side, immediately use the Phoenix Step tactics when we meet them and don't waste time with words. Ha ha ha, the red-haired girl laughed loudly in reply. After traversing the flat plains of Clear Wilderness Highlands for 10 days straight, Xu Jing and Lin Yingmei were finally able to see a set of rolling hills creeping like dragons lying in wait. The mountain had a specialty called giant iron trees. These trees were as solid as steel, and they covered the entire hill like armor. This made Xu Jing feel like the mountain was an impenetrable fortress. This was definitely the unyielding Wall Mountain, one of the 5 great mountains of Liangshan continent. Lin Yingmei had come to the Clear Wilderness Highland with the goal of finding Relic blade sand. This material, when used to forge weapons, would greatly enhance the weapon's toughness and strength. Even though the surprising incident of the signed contract happened on the way here, Xu Jing, who didn't have any real plans due to having only just arrived at Liangshan continent, was more than happy to just accompany her on her journey. Just as they were prepared to ascend the mountain, a massive fireball screeched towards them. Xu Jing quickly gathered his star energy on his finger and shot out a blue streak of light, blocking the fireball. Finding you two was definitely not easy. A man and woman stood in their way, blocking the path. Basing on the fluctuations of the star energy, the man was definitely not simple, his star energy was at least at the late Stardust stage. These past few days, Xu Jing also gained a deeper understanding of star cultivators, star masters, and their powers. The capability of star masters could be divided into these stages: Stardust, Nebula, Galaxy, Stellar, Oblivion and Annihilation. The bigger a person's star energy's reserve, the more advantage they would have in a battle. Right now Xu Jing's star energy was only at early Stardust stage. "Do we know you?" Xu Jing carefully asked. Sun Ho glanced at Lin Yingmei and attempted to evaluate her. However, a startled feeling welled up in his heart when he was unable to see through her strength. The red-haired girl ferociously spoke, who could imagine it really was a contracted Star Knight. "Great, killing you now would save us later. I don't want to fight with little sister," Lin Yingmei casually said. "Who's your little sister?" The girl shouted, her entire body releasing a crimson aura, with red lights appearing from both her hair and eyes. On her forehead, a star symbol appeared, while a dark red saber suddenly materialized in her hands. The saber split into 9 parts, each part connected to another. Blaze Refining 9 Prison Saber. Deviance Star, Red-Haired Devil. Lin Yingmei frowned. "Liked it?" "Don't be scared, being afraid won't help you now." The girl laughed lightly. Her eyes turned towards Sun Ho, waiting for his commands. "Master." Sun Ho still held some lingering fear towards Lin Yingmei's unusual calmness, but there was no room for hesitation. Sooner or later Star Knights would have to fight to the death, and this was a wonderful chance since the enemy was still newly contracted and had not yet reached a harmonious connection. Taking advantage of this chance would be for the best. Sun Ho nodded. Red-haired devil, Lu Tang revealed a devilish smile. She raised her Blaze Refining 9 Hell Saber, aimed at Lin Yingmei and slashed downward. The blade shot out a scorching fireball, brightening the surrounding area. Clang clang. Torrents of freezing air burst out in retaliation. Before Lu Tang's first saber attack could even reach her, Lin Yingmei instantly accessed her Star Knight mode, her forehead shining with the star symbol. Quickly stepping forward, her spear was like a venomous snake swallowing Lu Tang's fireball. Icy killing intent overwhelmed Lu Tang like a tidal wave. She quickly shifted to a defensive stance and her movement slowed, lacking the strength and clarity it previously had. Lin Yingmei, who was on the offensive, suddenly stopped and changed her technique. A cold blue light shot out in a strange arc, sometimes straight and sometimes curving, heading towards the red-haired devil. A loud blast reverberated throughout the mountain. Lin Yingmei's curving light collided with an emerald ring that came from the third person who entered the battle. Lin Yingmei would indeed have to risk facing 2 people at once. This third person was, of course, Sun Ho. During this time, Deviant Star Lu Tang had already retreated to a safe distance. Lin Yingmei gave chase, but Sun Ho's true aim was to only distract her away from Xu Jing. When the timing was right, the emerald ring suddenly changed direction and headed directly towards Xu Jing. Lin Yingmei leapt from her spot. In a blink of an eye, she was in front of Xu Jing. With a single slash, she pushed the emerald ring to fall back. "Lin Chong, it turns out you are Lin Chong." Deviant Star, Lu Tang, Lu Qing shouted in surprise. Sun Ho expression changed, unbelieving. He stared deeply at Lin Yingmei. "Qinger, you must be wrong, what kind of person is Panther Head Lin Chong? Why would she contract with such a useless Star Master?" maybe she is in love with him. Being evaluated as useless by the enemy made Xu Jing feel frustrated from the bottom of his heart, but he simply couldn't refute their words. He had been in this world for only 10 days. Don't mention artifacts like the one Sun Ho just used to attack Lin Yingmei, Xu Jing didn't even have any martial arts or sword arts. Even though he was currently a star cultivator, he could only stand by and watch Lin Yingmei fight for him. Master, this is the truth, that spear is the Arctic Star Serpent Spear, and she is Lin Chong descended. Lu Qing smiled cruelly. If that is so, we can only take care of the Star Master first. Sun Ho said with no hesitation. Based on his strength, they didn't need to worry about Xu Jing, and as long as they were able to hurt him, Lin Chong's soul would also be affected heavily. After that, even if she tried to resist, she would not be able to hold on for long. Killing Lin Chong, he would be like a tiger who has grown wings. With such thoughts in mind, Sun Ho slapped his bag and 2 jade swords shot out and flew forward. Worthless toys. Lin Yingmei sneered, her Arctic Star Serpent Spear lunged forward and shot down Sun Ho's jade swords. Lin Chong, let me take a few moves from you. Lu Qing roared, her body moved as fast as an arrow towards Lin Yingmei. The menacing blazing saber continuously slashed forward but was immediately deflected by Lin Yingmei's Arctic Star Serpent Spear. The wave of powerful star energy wrapped around the spear began to oppress Lu Qing. The constantly colliding forces finally caused the blaze-refining 9 Hell Saber to fly out of Lu Qing's hand. Go away. Lin Yingmei spun around and appeared behind Lu Qing, aiming at her spine. This was indeed a good move, and nobody could fault her technique. Unfortunately, the thing that met her spear head-on was a ball of fire. The spear attack scattered streamers of flame everywhere. Lu Qing and her extraordinary saber technique once again resumed their pressure. The Deviance star was not simple, even the Majestic star could not underestimate her. Sun Ho stood on the side, waiting for the perfect opportunity to launch a lethal attack against Xu Jing. However, Lin Chong's martial arts were extraordinary, even the both of them combined cannot defeat her. If she was so powerful when her Star Master was only at early stage Stardust, when she and her master grew more mature later on, their power would be unimaginable. This thought solidified Sun Ho's intent of squashing Lin Chong here and now. Lu Qing understood Sun Ho's plan, so she immediately retreated, her hands slowly raising up the blaze-refining 9 Hell Saber. Her maniacal flame and her saber both resonated, and then slowly fused into one. Lin Chong, take my Phoenix Step Saber technique. Lu Qing shouted as her body shot high into the air with the blaze-refining 9 Hell Saber aimed squarely at Lin Yingmei. A slash containing overwhelming power shot out. A strange black fire streamed out from within the saber and quickly converged at the tip of the blade, the fierce flame looking almost untamable. This move was flying directly at Lin Chong. In that moment, the entire world seemed like it was consumed by this powerful flame. This was Deviance Star Red-Haired Devil's Phoenix Step Tactics. 9 consecutive Hellfire Demonic Slash. What a mouthful. Master, be careful. Lin Yingmei gripped the Arctic Spear and gathered her star energy while facing the flame attack head-on. Fireballs showered Lin Yingmei as the 100 meters surrounding grass field transformed into a desert. It took only a moment for the fireballs to swallow Lin Chong up completely. Feeling the intense heat from 100 meters away, Xu Jing was anxious and wanted to help. But aside from the short pistol he always carried, he had not a single weapon. Xu Jing had no idea if mere bullets will have any effects on these star cultivators, but the only thing he can do was draw the silver pistol out. The body of the silver pistol were etched with ancient decorative patterns. The gun was given to him as a commemorative gift when he was promoted to become the country's youngest major. The pistol also had a sharp, solid knife attached to it. The name of the gun was Silver Blade. Sun Ho saw that Lu Qing had surrounded Lin Chong with her ultimate move. Without any hesitation he immediately leapt towards Xu Jing, his fingers curled up into a claw attack to take Xu Jing's life. No matter how one looked at it, Xu Jing was a weak and vulnerable early-stage Stardust cultivator. He didn't even have a decent artifact to protect himself. Bang bang. Xu Jing immediately shot out 2 shots, but the bullets were not even able to penetrate Sun Ho's star energy barrier. Are you trying to tickle me? Sun Ho laughed loudly. Xu Jing was very annoyed. On Earth, no matter what, he was still a renowned military major. Getting lost in this Liangshan continent now meant that he had to rely on a woman to protect him. This was such a frustrating turn of events. However, Xu Jing suddenly thought of something. Xu Jing's agility was quite good, and he was able to dodge several palm attacks from Sun Ho. With his finger on the trigger, he infused it with all the star energy in his body. He then aimed at Sun Ho and fired. A silver bullet shot out surrounded by an aura of light. Against this seemingly pathetic attack, Sun Ho simply sent a palm forward in jest. However, something unexpected happened. The bullet shot right through his hand and then penetrated Sun Ho's shoulder. Sun Ho screamed. Xu Jing's heart lifted, and he immediately unleashed 2 more bullets. The star energy bullets were extremely ferocious. Sun Ho risked his life defending against 3 of these consecutive bullets using all of his late-stage Stardust cultivation. Instead of retreating, Xu Jing pressed closer and hit him with an army punch. 2. Without any artifact, he had used his fist. Sun Ho had not anticipated that Xu Jing was so bold. His punch nearly caused Sun Ho to throw up. Sun Ho became enraged and lashed out with all of his star energy in response. Suddenly a beautiful figure appeared in front of Xu Jing, casually deflecting Sun Ho's attack. Master, are you alright? Lin Yingmei looked at Xu Jing, her eyes grim, her heart genuinely worrying about Xu Jing's safety. Xu Jing nodded. He had never thought that the silver blade in his hand could be so useful. What kind of trash are you, not even able to take care of an early-stage Stardust cultivator with no martial arts? The red-haired devil Lu Qing cursed while looking at the injured Sun Ho. This person has an unnatural artifact. Sun Ho had never felt so ashamed. Lu Qing glared at Sun Ho with a look full of hatred. Not a shred of worship was left in her eyes. She turned towards Lin Chong, smiling. You are indeed worthy of the title Majestic Star Lin Chong. I already used the Phoenix Step tactics, 9 consecutive Hellfire Demonic Slash, but it only ended up burning some of your clothes. This kind of result really makes people feel frustrated. Because her contractor Sun Ho was injured, Lu Qing also suffered no small amount of internal damage. Xu Jing had already shown that he could defend himself, not to mention Lin Yingmei, who still had more than enough fighting power. Master, do we kill them? Lin Yingmei's grip tightened around the Arctic Star Serpent Spear as it radiated an intense bone-chilling aura. The temperature of the air suddenly fell dramatically and the burning grass became covered with frost. Lu Qing and Sun Ho's face suddenly changed. Not good. Not only did they fail to steal the chicken, they also lost a handful of rice. 3. Kill. Xu Jing spat out coldly. Sword pistol. Basing on future chapters, the gun have 2 modes, gun and knife. It does seems to be a weapon related to Air Force pilots, and is a gun and switchblade knife in one. Perhaps this, but silver. 2. Basically a gut punch, often taught in the military and thus called an army punch by the author. 3. The context pretty much explains the meaning, but basically the saying meant that even though they came intending to profit, they are the one who is taken advantage of in the end. Liked it? With such a heaven-sent chance, why would Xu Jing pick now to grant his enemy mercy? Lin Yingmei leapt, her Arctic Star Spear thrusted straight forward. You are looking down on me too much. Lu Qing's face reddened as she retaliated with everything she had. Lin Yingmei's spear and Lu Qing's saber collided, resulting in blindingly bright sparks. While deep in the midst of their battle, a pink figure suddenly appeared between them. One could only see that it was a girl who gently dances between the saber and the spear blades. A yin-yang formation rotated into existence, gently separating the two maidens from each other, stopping only when they were 10 meters apart. This turn of event caught Xu Jing and others totally by surprise. Little sisters, we should all take care of ourselves, please stop fighting. A young girl appeared. She wore an extremely intricately decorated silk dress that perfectly accentuated her slender body. She moved elegantly, her skin paler than snow, soft and tender. Her beauty was the kind capable of collapsing empires. Even when she wasn't trying, an aura of regality radiated from her that caused others to not dare look down on her. Step aside, don't get in my way. Lin Yingmei's eyes ferociously gleamed, her killing intent covering the sky. Arctic Star Serpent Spear. Who would have thought that I would run into Lin Chongsis here? Ah, is that your master? The mysterious girl covered her mouth while evaluating Xu Jing in startlement. Her body slightly moved, and even before Lin Yingmei could respond, the mysterious girl was already standing in front of Xu Jing. Is that speed even humanly possible? Xu Jing didn't even have the chance to panic before a sweet-smelling scent like exotic flowers invaded his nose. How did you get Lin Chongsis to contract with you? The girl smiled mischievously. Master, retreat. Lin Yingmei quickly spun around and shouted a heaven-defying cry as her spear attack shot out. The girl's body was light as a feather as she calmly flew backward, completely dodging Lin Chong's attack. Which star are you? Lin Yingmei gripped her spear, her entire body tensed up considerably. Just in the past few seconds, Lin Yingmei could sense that the girl in front of her was quite powerful. Lin Yingmei gripped her spear, her entire body tensed up considerably. Just in the past few seconds, Lin Yingmei could sense that the girl in front of her was quite powerful. The mysterious girl only smiled and did not answer. She looked around at the devastated grass field and said, just now on the mountain I felt a sudden fluctuation of power. I never thought that it was due to the little sister's star duel. Please give me face and temporarily stop fighting. What qualification do you have to give me orders? Deviance star Lu Qing's overbearing voice shouted out. Just now, I saved your life. The girl laughed and said, if not for me, both you and your star master would be dead in the ground. Lu Qing and Sun Ho's face turned extremely unpleasant. Sun Ho knew that because he was injured by Xu Jing, he ended up affecting Lu Qing's combat capability. If they continue to fight, it will mostly likely end in their defeat. Thinking so, he saluted, we will do as you said. Lu Qing only gave a small grunt and resheathed her saber. And what does this star master think about my suggestion? The girl turned her eyes towards Xu Jing, beaming with a smile as she asked. Her smile clearly signaled that she would not take any other answer than the one she wanted. We can't beat you, so we can only agree. Xu Jing understood and agreed begrudgingly. The girl happily laughed, isn't this much better? Let's wait until you meet again on the Yangshan Maiden Domain to show off your powers. What a busybody, poking your nose in other people's matters for no reason. Lu Qing said with a resentful tone. Master. Lin Yingmei also did not feel very satisfied. Her hands still gripped the spear tightly. Xu Jing shook his head and stepped forward to hold her back. Now that this mysterious girl had intervened, they could only restrain themselves. With her power, even if the Majestic Star and Deviance Star were to combine their strength, they were still not her match. Even if they weren't willing, there was nothing they could do. He only regretted missing out on the 1-in-1,000-year chance, this time they only won due to the other party's overconfidence. Later on, he doubts they would have such a good chance again. Perhaps it would be even more dangerous next time with them knowing his strength. How are your injuries? Xu Jing looked at Lin Yingmei's body full of wounds. Lu Qing's 9 consecutive hellfire slash was no joke, and it obviously took some effort to escape from it. Lin Yingmei shook her head and retracted her spear. Now that you guys have made up, this Liller have some business that I hope both of you can help me out with. The mysterious girl who called herself Liller said and then laughed loudly. She was asking for their help, but everyone knew it was an order that was impossible to reject. "What can we help you with?" Shu Jing asked. "When I was at the top of the mountain, I discovered an ancient relic blade legacy monument. Unfortunately, there was a protective seal around the place, and it requires at least 3 stars to unlock the seal. This matter has caused me much grief. If it's really the relic blade legacy, then I guess we can help you out this one time." Lu Qing humphed and said. Seeing that even Lin Chong was affected by this news, Shu Jing also quickly nodded in reply. The group then headed towards the mountain. Thanks to having the mysterious girl lead the way, they were able to avoid any trouble. The night descended. Everybody split into their respective groups to find their own resting ground. Shu Jing leaned on a boulder, pulled out silver blade. He quietly practiced distilling star energy into bullets over and over again. Lin Yingmei did a round of inspection before settling down across from him. She stared at the silver weapon in Shu Jing's hands with a quizzical feeling. She had never come across this type of weapon. On the surface there was no fluctuation of energy. At a glance, it should have been nothing more than a useless lump of iron. But Shu Jing had used this lump of iron to injure Sun Ho, who had achieved Stardust late stage. Lin Yingmei saw with her own eyes. The weapon's penetrative power was comparable to a low-grade nebula stage artifact. It could be used continuously very quickly, and without the need to be controlled by divine intent. Not only was her master odd, even his weapon was peculiar. "Yingmei, can you guess who that Star Knight is?" Shu Jing finished cleaning the gun and then looked towards the mysterious girl who was sleeping casually on top of a tree branch in the distance. Lin Yingmei glanced over and spoke reluctantly. "She hasn't used her unique martial art yet, so there is no way for me to tell. There are few uncontracted stars under the heaven who could oppress me, but there's always the chance that she have had other fateful encounters that bolstered her strength." "Could it be Song Jiang?" Shu Jing smiled and said. "Leader Star Song Jiang, the #1 Liangshan warrior." "Song Jiang?" Lin Yingmei asked with some disdain. "Right now Master should be careful until we reach the legacy." Lin Yingmei over at the Lu Qing pair, her expression serious. Logically, Deviant star Lu Tang would never agree to contract with such a useless star cultivator. He must have something that caused the red-haired devil to be swayed. "Let's head inside the legacy and then find a way to separate from them," Shu Jing said. Lin Yingmei nodded, not disagreeing. On the other side, Lu Qing coldly looked at Sun Ho. "You nearly sabotaged me this time." Sun Ho nervously said, "That kid's artifact is so strange, next time I will definitely be more careful." "Humph, you better." Lu Qing then stared daggers at the mysterious girl from the corner of her eyes. "Right now we should prioritize recovering from our injuries. When we are fully healed and the timing is right, we will kill both Lin Chong and her Star Master. This time you must remember to take out your nebula stage artifact. Against the Majestic Star, we must not hold back." Sun Ho stared at Shu Jing with rising killing intent. "This damn early stage Stardust cultivator, I will definitely cut him into 1,000,000 pieces. That would be for the best." Lu Qing spoke with a grim face. 2 days later, they safely reached their destination. Relic Blade Legacy. Liked it? The Relic Blade Legacy was hidden inside a small mountain ridge. Looking from the outside there really was nothing worthy of praise, no special marker or exotic plants were found in the surrounding area. Outside the large gate was just simple wild grass. If not for Lil Hare's direction they would have completely passed by this area. "Is this really the Relic Blade Legacy from Legends?" Sun Ho asked suspiciously. "This place is only a lesser Relic Blade Legacy, but it still contains some pretty good stuff. You Star Masters should make the most of this chance." Lil Air laughed deviously. This was due to the fact that Star Knights were incapable of using any weapons aside from their own personal one granted by the heaven, so artifacts or even astral artifacts were useless to them. The words spoken by the young girl caused both Xu Jing and Sun Ho to be moved. Then we won't stand on ceremony. Lil Er stood in front of the gate with two hands forming a seal. A protective formation began to mobilize, stopping them from entering. This protective formation's name is Sky Enveloping Star Obeying Formation. Within it, there are 3 crucial points that require us sisters to each simultaneously mobilize our own unique martial arts and attack it. Lil Er spoke seriously. Lin Yingmei and Lu Qing nodded, their weapons pointed towards the locations Lil Er showed them. As the 2 crucial points came under attack, waves of energy fluctuated in response from the protective formation. Everybody turned around and looked at Lil Er intently during this crucial moment. If this protective formation could only be broken by Star Knight martial arts, then Xu Jing looked forward to finding out Lil Er's real identity. Lil Er laughed softly, but it did not seem like she planned to expose herself just yet. A small sound echoed, and suddenly a dazzling golden light shot out from her palm. Boom! The protective formation had completely shattered. Ha! It's finally opened. Lil Er excitedly said and clapped her hands. After the gate opened, everyone could see a long hallway with no end in sight. The entire corridor seemed to be carved from large solid bluestone bricks. On the 2 sides of the hall were glowing green lights that illuminated the ancient legacy. The solemn and majestic scene inside of the legacy completely contrasted with the ordinary outside landscape. Lil Er immediately flew in like an arrow. Humph! Sun Ho glanced at Xu Jing full of contempt. Not wishing to miss out on the treasures, he also quickly ran inside, followed closely by Lu Qing. Let us go. This corridor was unfathomably deep, almost like there was no end to it. In the blink of an eye, Lil Er and Sun Ho have disappeared from view. Xu Jing wasn't feeling too impatient. With people already leading the way ahead, he could calmly follow from behind. He nonchalantly enjoyed the sight of the stones on the 2 sides of the hallway while quietly praising the workmanship of the creators in his heart. All along the walls, the blue stones were tightly and intricately arranged layer atop layer, almost as if they were decorative dragon scales. Even the architecture is impressive. Xu Jing sighed. Legend says that this relic blade legacy has a hidden secret. The person who discovers this secret will find an astral treasure called the Profound Star Barrier. Lin Yingmei spoke. Really? Xu Jing's eyes brightened. Astral artifacts were artifacts that fell from the star realm. They were immensely powerful, more so than any ordinary artifact. Even an Oblivion stage artifact could not be compared to an astral artifact. I'm afraid that is Lil Er's goal in coming here. However, countless people have attempted to solve the secret of this relic blade legacy, but none of them have succeeded in obtaining the Profound Star Barrier. Lin Yingmei wasn't fully convinced that this legacy truly contained this artifact. Even if it did at some point, perhaps someone had already taken it away during the past few hundred years. Could somebody have already solved the secret? Xu Jing asked as he stroked the surface of the walls. Lin Yingmei shook her head, indicating that she hadn't heard any news regarding this matter. The hallway was so incredibly long that only after hours of walking did they end up at an impasse. You guys are so slow. Lil Er had to wait for quite some time, so when she finally saw them, she laughed out heartily. Why did you stop? Xu Jing asked while evaluating the surrounding. At the end of the hallway was a large hall room. In the middle of this hall was a large mural carved on a huge polished stone. The mural depicted a large green dragon with a jewel in its mouth. To the sides of the painting were 2 different directions shrouded in darkness. Aside from that, there were 7 pillars. The one at the very center was made entirely from a large gemstone, with mysterious light radiating from inside it. See that gemstone pillar? Lil Er pointed at the gemstone pillar at the center. Is there something wrong with it? Xu Jing felt something was out of place. Why haven't anyone taken it through all these years? Lil Er asked back, now that we are here, what do you think of this relic blade legacy? There is nothing here aside from that pillar. Sun Ho spoke full of contempt. No artifacts nor astral beasts. Lil Air kept smiling as she turned towards Xu Jing. What about you? It's too clean. Xu Jing frowned. Now that this girl has mentioned it, he realized that this place was spotless. According to Lin Chong, this legacy has been around for hundreds of years. It's impossible for it to remain so clean after all this time. You seem to be smarter than him at least. What could be causing everything to be like this? Lil Air praised. Could it be because of this gemstone pillar? Xu Jing answered full of doubt. Lil Air giggles. That's an astral gemstone, astral gemstone. Everybody shouted in surprise. Astral gemstones were well known across the continent for being a precious material that came from the Liangshan Maidens' realm. Inside these gemstones were a separate space where items can be stored. The majority of cultivators in Liangshan continent all carried an astral bag because of its unique property. On the outside, the astral bag would look just like a normal bag, but when infused with a small astral gemstone, they were capable of storing various items of all different sizes. However, these astral gemstones are extremely rare. Only every 108 years, when the Star Duel Banquet commences, do these rare gemstones follow the Star Knights and descend into the mortal plane. That's why this rare material's value can be comparable to astral artifacts. In front of them right now was a massive block of the rare astral gemstone. Everyone could hardly believe it. Then what the hell are we waiting for? Sun Ho smiled greedily and ran towards the pillar. Idiot! Lu Qing'er cursed at him. When Sun Ho stepped into the throne hall, the gemstone pillar suddenly began to glow. The other surrounding pillars also began to light up in order. Sun Ho was scared out of his wits by this sudden sight. Inside the gemstone pillar, there suddenly appeared a shadow that grew bigger and bigger, almost like it wanted to break the gemstone apart to escape. Lil Air also ran into the throne hall. After which, there was a loud rumbling, and then the shadow finally broke out of the pillar. Like a cyclone, countless creatures burst out into the room. Spirit engulfing flood dragons. Lu Qing'er shouted. These spirit engulfing flood dragon belonged to the peak of the flood dragon bloodline, but they were extremely small, their bodies only measuring about a foot. However, it could fly extremely fast in midair and swallow star energy. With so many of them, it would only take seconds for them to consume an entire person. Lu Qing took out her blaze refining 9 hell saber. A single slash with the saber created a fireball that brought with it a powerful heat wave shooting forward. Unfortunately, these spirit engulfing flood dragons also belonged to the ancient beast category. Not only could they swallow star energy, they even consider spiritual and natural energy to be gourmet meals. That's why the fireball only served to make them even more excited. Lin Yingmei swung her spear powerfully to create shock waves. However, these flood dragons had illusory forms, and none of these attacks have any effect on them. The spirit engulfing flood dragons may have looked terrifying, but for now, holding them back wasn't a problem. Lil Air took this chance to fly across the room and went through the right hallway. Lu Qing'er concentrated all her strength into the blaze refining 9 hell sabers fireballs to suppress the beasts. Sun Ho, who was scared stiff, was dragged by Lu Qing'er into the left hallway. Lil Air took this chance to fly across the room and went through the right hallway. Lu Qing'er concentrated all her strength into the blaze refining 9 hell sabers fireballs to suppress the beasts. Sun Ho, who was scared stiff, was dragged by Lu Qing'er into the left hallway. Master, let's get out of here. Lin Yingmei hurriedly said. Xu Jing nodded and gathered his star energy to attack the wild beasts as they make their way to the right hallway. When they were nearly at the entrance, Xu Jing suddenly stopped. He looked at the walls of the hallway, at the dragon scale decoration that follows along the wall as it heads directly towards the dragon in the mural at the middle of the room. It was a magnificent sight, revealing the true scope of the artwork, as the entire hallway they had walked through now seemed like it was a part of the dragon from the mural. Glancing at the spirit engulfing flood dragons, Shu Jing suddenly had a revelation. Could this be the secret? Shu Jing asked in surprise. Master, what are you talking about? Lin Yingmei gritted her teeth. Yingmei, we must head to the center of the hall. Shu Jing turned and ran back towards the painting. With her position as his star knight, Lin Yingmei could only hesitantly follow. Liked it? The closer Shu Jing got to the mural, the more aggressive the spirit engulfing flood dragons became. Lin Yingmei followed closely behind and protected him with all her might. She was extremely puzzled about why Shu Jing was just standing in front of the painting, stubbornly observing it and refusing to move on. Shu Jing leaned closer to the mural. The more he inspected it, the more vivid and lifelike it became. The figure of the green dragon looked like it was about to burst out at a moment's notice. Inside the dragon's mouth was a jewel with 7 small blinking stars carved upon it. Shu Jing's eyes lit up. Without any hesitation, his hand shot towards the stars and pressed down on one of them gently. The moment his finger made contact, a dim ray of light appeared from within the star. When Shu Jing saw this, he immediately pressed down on all 7 stars simultaneously, his heart full of expectation for a special event to happen. However, the 7 stars only briefly flickered to life before slowly turning back into a normal carving. Master, more spirit engulfing flood dragons are coming out from inside the astral gemstone faster and faster. We must leave this place at once. Lin Yingmei revealed a rarely seen panicked expression. She really didn't want to end up as a meal for these flood dragons. That kind of death would not be satisfying at all. Shu Jing turned around and stared unblinkingly at the 7 pillars inside the throne room, and then looked at the 7 stars on the jewel. The way they were arranged was very similar to each other. Hold on for just a little longer. Shu Jing's mind was spinning at lightning speed. He quickly pressed down on all the 7 stars again. The 7 stars on the pearl once again blinked to life, and a deep muffled sound rang out. The green dragon's jaw lowers, with sounds of stones moving piercing to the ear. By the time the sound stopped, there was now a compartment revealed where the jewel previously was. Lin Yingmei was startled by this development. Shu Jing didn't waste any time scrutinizing the secret compartment. He immediately grabbed everything inside it and shouted, "Let's go." Lin Yingmei gathered her strength, swept the flood dragons aside with her Arctic Star Serpent Spear, and followed Shu Jing into the right hallway. After they made their way inside the hall, they realized they were surrounded by complete darkness. The light from the outside simply could not enter this place. Luckily, this was also the spirit engulfing flood dragon's weakness, because without light they could not find their targets at all. After lighting up a small torch, the illuminated Lin Yingmei turned and asked, "What did Master do just then?" Shu Jing didn't immediately answer, but instead he took out some items from inside his pouch. There were a small jade crystal and a jadeite stone in his hand. "I suddenly remembered the secret you mentioned, so I tried something. It seems my thoughts were correct. This is..." Lin Chong concentrated her divine intent on the items in his hand. Suddenly her face showed a surprised expression, the profound astral gem. "No way, this is the profound astral gem?" Shu Jing was taken aback, and he carefully re-evaluated the palm-sized piece of crystal jade in his hand. There were countless stars forming in the shape of an eclipsed new moon in his hand. Shu Jing could not detect any power coming from the surface of the jade stone. However, if Lin Yingmei said that it was the profound astral gem, then it must be true. Shu Jing then shifted his attention to the jade marble. Aside from a dark shadow residing within it, it seemed like just an ordinary rock. "What great luck, we've already managed to get our hands on an astral artifact." Shu Jing grinned. Lin Yingmei stared at Shu Jing suspiciously. She completely did not believe in the luck that Shu Jing spoke about. Thinking about the previous actions of Shu Jing, he definitely knew the solution to the secret of this relic blade legacy. "Master, how did you figure it out?" Lin Yingmei wasn't able to comprehend his previous actions. Xu Jing spoke about his discovery of the similarity between the pillars and the stars. In the beginning, he didn't think much of it, but when Lin Yingmei was hurrying him, a new possibility suddenly emerged in his mind. Xu Jing felt that even though the throne hall contained astral gemstone columns, there was no reason for the legacy's creator to raise a bunch of flood dragons there to guard it. He couldn't have been so idle that he wasted effort to create such a simple trap. He must have had a deeper motive. Because while on the outside, the spirit engulfing flood dragons may seem intimidating, they really aren't that much of a threat until after a certain period of time has passed, and a sufficient amount of them have gathered. Xu Jing then thought of the possibility that this legacy's creator had kept the flood dragons here not to deal with the people who had invaded the legacy, but to only scare them into quickly leaving the hall. If this was the reason, then there was only one possible answer: the secret of the Relic Blade legacy was contained within the main hall itself. Hearing Xu Jing's deduction, Lin Yingmei felt faint. Master, even if you were right, how did the hidden passage open up in the end? No matter what, many people have already gone through this legacy previously. I think the appearance of the flood dragons caused them to be too distracted to notice the password. Password? Lin Yingmei frowned. She had never heard of this term. The password is the key to opening this hidden passage. Do you remember the 7 columns? I pressed the stars based on the order those pillars initially lit up. But to be honest, I really didn't think it would reveal this passageway. But there seems to be something strange about them. These sanctuaries seem to be tailor-made to attract cultivators connected to the Star Dual Covenant, as if they were put there on purpose. Your servant also thinks this, but in order to know for sure, I'm afraid there is only one way, Lin Yingmei calmly said. Become the final victor of the Liangshan Star Duel. Jade crystals, nephrite, and jadeites are 2 different kind of stones. Liked it? During their journey through the pitch-black corridor, Xu Jing managed to learn several things from Lin Yingmei. It seems that the matters about star duels were not as simple as he originally thought. Signing a contract was only the first step. In order to enter the holy ground of the Liangshan Maiden, star maidens would use all means possible to improve their strength. The girls usually hid their power and patiently bided their time, so it would be difficult for him to fathom their true strength. And not only were there the star maidens, all of their star masters were also his enemy. A light finally appeared at the end of the passageway. Xu Jing and Lin Yingmei finally finished their conversation and came out from the passageway. The sun was dazzlingly bright. Xu Jing wasn't able to adapt in time and furiously blinked his eyes. In front of them were valleys surrounded by mountains completely covered in lush green vegetation. There were countless blooming flowers, and the wind carried with it a soft scent that penetrated deep into one's souls. Lin Chong, little sis, why were you so late? Did you discover something interesting? A gentle voice carried by the wind sounded out from a nearby willow branch. Xu Jing looked up. Who could it be aside from Lil's hair? The girl was relaxing on top of the tree branch, her body looking even suppler than the willow itself. Are we inside the legacy? Xu Jing asked. Legacy? Little Air laughed. You are so funny, this is the other side of the unyielding wall mountain. What? Xu Jing and Lin Yingmei were both startled. This is the other side of the mountain. Xu Jing and Lin Yingmei lifted their heads, and the unyielding wall mountain was towering above them like a giant. We came out just like that. Xu Jing was a bit speechless. Wasn't this Relic Blade legacy too simple? However, thinking back, Lin Yingmei had told him about how often legacies would contain only a single puzzle, and the moment one chose the wrong path it would pretty much be the end of the road. Did you went through all that just for this view? Lin Yingmei asked. Lil Air laughed loudly. Heavens, little sis Lin Chong. This is the unyielding wall mountain, which is part of Liangshan continent's 5 great mountains, and is thousands of feet tall. It is almost impossible to cross even if one could fly, and don't even mention walking. Thus, one must naturally make use of any shortcut they can find. But of course, I also managed to reap some profit this time. Lil Air took out a bottle. The bottle was half filled with dark gray sand. Lin Yingmei's face darkened. This was the relic blade sand she had been looking for. Where did you find it? Xu Jing asked. Lil Air pointed at the entrance they just came out from. Sure enough, there were some leftover digging marks on the ground where the sand previously was. At the Relic Blade Legacies, aside from the elusive profound astral gem, the most valuable treasure is the small amount of Relic Blade sand that spawns near the legacy itself. Even though Lin Yingmei coveted the material, since the other party was one step ahead, she could only give up. However, when she heard Li Er spoke about the profound astral gem, a trace of pride welled up in her heart. Oh, that's right, I didn't come to talk about this. Deviant Star Lu Tang was looking for you guys, but I deceived her and said you headed towards the west. She has already left. You guys should be careful, she won't let you go. I hope we will be able to meet once again. Lil Er chuckled, from her fingers appeared a bright ray of light, and her figure vanished without a trace. Using her divine intent to search the area, Yingmei discovered there wasn't even a breath of Lil Er was left behind. She had really left. Even Star Knights have consciences. Xu Jing was surprised. He thought that with Lil Er's formidable strength, since sooner or later all Star Knights will have to fight to the death at Liangshan Maiden Domain, she would use this opportunity to get rid of them. It seems like she didn't plan to do so. Perhaps all Star Maidens who have not entered a Star Dual Covenant contract all act this naive. Lin Yingmei did not reply. She was just as confused as Xu Jing. Forget it, we must get out of here quickly. Xu Jing thought their current situation wasn't exactly optimal. Inside the legacy, most of their star energy was absorbed by the spirit engulfing flood dragons. Right now, they were at their weakest. Even if they had the profound astral gem, against the Deviance star, they might still be at a disadvantage. Thinking so, Xu Jing and Lin Yingmei left towards another direction. The night fell, and the mountain became quiet. Xu Jing flipped the profound astral gem back and forth, but still couldn't figure anything out. He also tried to inject a small bit of star energy into it, but nothing happened. Xu Jing laid on the grass while far away on a hilltop, Lin Yingmei was practicing her spear technique. Moonlight was shining upon the Arctic star Lone Moon Serpent spear, each spear thrust caused a chilling breeze to be emitted. Lin Yingmei's determined expression caused Xu Jing to quietly praise her. Suddenly, Lin Yingmei stopped her training, turning to Xu Jing and asked, Master, do you also wish to train? I lack talent in this area. Xu Jing shook his head. No, since we are connected through the contract, some of my experience have been transferred over to you. All you need to do is practice and this latent power will awaken. Lin Yingmei said. Really? I can become just like you. Lin Yingmei nodded affirmatively. Xu Jing wanted to ask about what he needed to do to awaken this power, but seeing Lin Yingmei standing in the battle position, he immediately understood. The best way to stimulate his potential was through fighting. Be careful. Xu Jing pulled out the silver blade. Do your best. Lin Yingmei spoke icily. Before she even finished speaking, a chilling streak of light shot out towards her. Xu Jing went ahead and attacked. Lin Yingmei's hand shook, blue light radiates from her attack as it flew towards Xu Jing. Even with star energy reinforcing them, the bullets were not able to oppress the blue light. Instantly, the light roared to life like a snake and pounced at him. This attack did not allow Xu Jing even a bit of time to breathe. This is Lin Chang's spear technique. Bang bang bang. Without any hesitation, Xu Jing's continuous bullets shot forward, each like a terrifying assassin. The sounds of the bullets and metals continuously colliding rang out in the air. This was the first time Lin Yingmei were already displaying her true strength. Not only were her attacks swift, but even her defense was impenetrable. After images of both bullets and blades formed a freezing whirlwind in the surrounding 30 feet area. Under this intense pressure, Xu Jing's hidden potential began to show itself, causing his movements to drastically improve. Even though he was sometimes forcibly cornered, with mere inches away from a fatal attack, he always managed to narrowly escape. In the blink of an eye, his figure was already upon Lin Yingmei. A punch filled with freezing power struck out, and in the girl's eyes a blue glint of light was reflected. Lin Yingmei remained calm. Her feet became as fast as the wind and casually sidestepped the punch. But the attack suddenly changed direction and swept horizontally, its speed and power increasing by several folds. However, Lin Yingmei was even prepared for this, and her spear instantly deflected Xu Jing's side-sweeping strike. The chilling sharp spear point forced Xu Jing to retreat. In an instant, Lin Yingmei had shifted the tides of battle and gained the upper hand. Even though he was mentally prepared, Lin Yingmei's tyrannical attacks could not be underestimated. Her strength exceeded his by far, and with her overwhelming momentum, Xu Jing was pushed back several meters. But the moment his feet touched the ground, he immediately regained his balance. A soft hump sounded out. The trigger was pulled. Several rapidly rotating bullets shot out, creating disturbances in the air akin to a venomous serpent's fangs. Lin Yingmei was ready. She jumped high up into the air as the bullets swarmed towards her. Lin Yingmei didn't even stop to think, as her Arctic Star Serpent swept down and sliced the incoming bullets in half. Master, you are on the right track. Xu Jing's strange attacks had managed to impress Lin Chong. The star symbol on Xu Jing's forehead began to shine, bringing with it a deeply comfortable feeling that spread throughout his entire body and meridians. Liked it? Xu Jing smiled and coldly shouted out while the silver blade in his hand released a powerful icy blue wind force towards Lin Yingmei. The wind force transformed into a devastating hurricane that destroyed everything in its way. It then completely surrounded Lin Yingmei from all sides with afterimages. However, no matter how cunning or unpredictable his attacks, he still couldn't injure Lin Yingmei. The Arctic Star Serpent spear constantly spun around her like an impenetrable wall, bouncing back every single one of Xu Jing's blade illusions. This was the first time Xu Jing had fought against a Star Knight. Seeing none of his attacks being effective, he breathed incautiously in his heart. The majestic star Lin Chong was definitely impressive. Anything he could do, he had already done. Right now, he was the most powerful he's ever been, yet it was still not enough. Master, how are you feeling? Lin Yingmei asked, concerned. Yingmei, are you hungry or something? Put some power into it. Xu Jing was thrilled. All the cells in his body were being invigorated due to the intense battle, and the star symbol on his forehead shined even brighter than before, reflecting his mood. Your servant understands. Lin Yingmei's spear once again shot forward. Seeing her master in high spirits, Lin Yingmei's figure transformed into a fearsome figure, resembling that of a demon from hell. She completely shrunk the space between them and instantly appeared in front of Xu Jing, her body inches away from the ground. Before the dark aura surrounding her had the chance to disperse, her Arctic Star Serpent spear had already begun to slash right across. A flash of light. The night seemed to have split apart. Xu Jing wasn't able to say a word. His face went pale, his wrists swinging upwards. He didn't bother to shoot, only used the silver blade to defend against the attack. He no longer planned to rely on the power of his energy bullets. Instead, he would focus on simple speed to defeat Yingmei. Xu Jing's hands gripped the silver blade tightly, the icy sword tip flashed like thunder and lightning. A powerful murderous aura enveloped Lin Yingmei's body. The darkness was suddenly split apart. Xu Jing's body was like an illusion, appearing by her side in a blink of an eye. Sounds of weapons colliding rang out again and again. Lin Yingmei withdrew, her spear shaking, but she still managed to rigidly maintain the spear in an offensive stance. Like her title, her spear was as towering as a mountain, solid and unyielding. Facing Xu Jing's strange surprise attack, her face remained calm. Xu Jing smiled slightly. His sword flashed like lightning, his speed faster than the wind itself. The blade headed directly towards Lin Yingmei's chest. All of this happened in an instant, but with the short distance between them, each moment lasted as long as a lifetime. At the last second, Xu Jing slightly shifted the direction of his blade. The shockwave of this attack shot right by Lin Yingmei, ripping a piece of her clothes. With his attack piercing through Lin Yingmei's clothes, along with the huge inertia force of his movement, Xu Jing crashed into her embrace. Time seemed to have stopped. Lin Yingmei stared at the chest that was pressed right on top of her as her entire body turned stiff. The strange feelings transmitted by being so close to him eventually jolted her awake. The moonlight shined down on them, illuminating Lin Yingmei's shocked expression. Xu Jing had demonstrated an amazing potential for fighting. He gasped heavily, his entire body felt like falling apart. He didn't even have the strength to pull the trigger of his gun. If Lin Chong had continued to attack him now, the only thing he could do was sit and wait for his death. As Lin Yingmei retrieved her Arctic Star Serpent Spear, Xu Jing lost all his remaining strength and fell forward. "Master!" Lin Yingmei called out and quickly stopped his fall with her arms. Seeing his determined expression, even the Majestic Star couldn't help but smile slightly. "Not bad, Master." After the fight, they continued their journey in search of Relic Blade Sand. Xu Jing sparred with Lin Yingmei daily. His improvement rate was astonishing, each time they fought Lin Yingmei was shocked anew. This was the first time that she had seen a Star Master able to integrate with a Star Knight's experience so easily. It was almost as if she and Xu Jing were made for each other. Since they were pursued by the Deviance Star, they had to reserve some strength while training, which consumed huge amounts of star energy. When the time came, they wanted to go into battle at their best condition, with the star combat state exciting their blood endlessly. 10 days later, at night, a strange event began to occur in the sky. Suddenly, the entire night became blindingly bright while the 108 sacred stars resonated. A single dazzling blue star began to glow intensely, causing the night to turn into day. Xu Jing and Lin Yingmei stopped in the middle of their training and looked up. After the sacred star released the intense blue light, a red dense ray of light shot to the east as the star followed along and began to fall towards the Liangshan Maiden. A chaotic light path carved its way across the night. "A fallen star," Lin Yingmei whispered. "Fallen star? Are you saying that a Star Knight has been defeated?" Xu Jing immediately understood what she meant. Lin Yingmei nodded calmly, "That's right, when a Star Knight is defeated, their representative sacred star will fall from the sky, and we call this a fallen star." "Are they dead?" Xu Jing felt some pity about this matter. It would be better to say that they have returned home. Lin Yingmei maintained her usual expression while staring at the distant Liangshan Maiden. It was impossible to tell what was on her mind. "I wonder which star it was. It's probably Master's all-time favorite, the leader star Songjiang," Lin Yingmei said casually while glancing at Xu Jing. Xu Jing smiled sheepishly. How could he not detect the faint sour note in Lin Yingmei's voice? "But why would you assume that it is Songjiang who has fallen?" Xu Jing was too curious and asked. From Lin Yingmei's tone, he could tell she held some disdain towards the legendary leader of the 108 stars. Could it be that the Star Maiden duels shared a similarity with the classic novel when it comes to Songjiang's idiocy? Even if it's just fighting prowess, she can't compare with the current master," Lin Yingmei said flatly. Xu Jing's face reddened from Yingmei's straightforwardness. "According to what your servant knows, during every single star duel, leader star Songjiang was always the first one to be defeated. Is she really that useless? Amongst all the combat specialized stars, she is the weakest." Lin Yingmei shook her head. According to Yingmei, the Star Knight's specialties are divided into martial arts, mystic arts, and Star Master abilities. Martial arts and mystic arts are the most important powers since the Star Master abilities are only useful when used to support an appropriately powerful Star Master partner. Historically, Song Jiang's ability have been rated at the lowest. Throughout the 5 Great Dynasties era, no Star Master would willingly contract with her. Lin Yingmei explained, Song Jiang lacks combat abilities, yet she sits at the very top of the ranking. There is a rule in the Star Duel. Defeat a Star Knight and one shall gain their Star Energy. You can imagine what huge amount of Star Energy is residing within the leader star. No Star Knight or Star Master would pass on this immensely beneficial medicine. Xu Jing felt even more pity for this leader star once he found out about this matter. Her situation is just too similar to Xuanzang's flesh. 2. Timely Rain. Oh timely rain. 3. Will you just be like your nickname and be around to deliver a timely experience boost for your fellow Star Knights? Yingmei, are you also after her power? Lin Yingmei smiled lightly. Master is looking down on this servant too much. Lin Chong treats people fairly. I don't have any interest in killing useless weaklings. Of course, if Master orders me to, I will complete the mission without hesitation. Fighting a defenseless enemy is also not something I want to do. In this matter, they had common opinions. However, Xu Jing also quietly thought that it wouldn't be a bad idea if he could end up making a contract with this timely rain Song Jiang. Yingmei, this relic blade sand is really hard to find. Is there no way for you to hurry up? After 10 days of continuous searching, Xu Jing and Lin Yingmei had been all over this side of the mountain, but there were no gains whatsoever. Xu Jing couldn't help but think Yingmei was mistaken. It is true that this is a little troublesome. Lin Yingmei looked at Xu Jing apprehensively, her eyes full of thoughts, as if she was trying to decide on something. In the end, she shook her head lightly. Xu Jing couldn't guess what Lin Yingmei was thinking about. But he knew how huge and boundless the Liangshan continent was. Just an ordinary plain was already larger than the Pampas region on Earth by several times. Trying to find the relic blade sands in a place like this was harder than finding a needle in the ocean. Time is money. Right now, there are already 40 contracted stars. If we continue like this we won't be able to find it before all 108 stars have successfully contracted. Xu Jing explained. What does Master suggest? Xu Jing looked at the nearby pond. I'll go take a bath first, you go ahead and keep thinking about new methods to improve our efficiency. Randomly looking everywhere like we are doing right now is probably not the best idea. Lin Yingmei nodded and said, your servant will go and observe the surrounding areas for a bit. It had nearly been a month since Xu Jing came to this new world. The biggest impression Xu Jing had about this place was that it was entirely covered with high mountains, large lakes, all around a beautiful and breathtaking scenery. Due to this picturesque and calming landscape, Xu Jing was able to endure the current situation. Taking off all his clothes, Xu Jing jumped into the pond. The cooling sensation infiltrated his body, causing him to feel extremely relaxed. As he was preparing to close his eyes and concentrate on recovering his body, a loud commotion resounded from the nearby woods. Xu Jing's eyes shot open, just in time to catch a glimpse of a girl with slender body walking out from the forest. She was wearing what seemed to be a short green skirt, only about knee-high in length, which showed off her smooth, long pair of legs which were wrapped in white socks. Seeing Xu Jing, her beautiful eyes lit up. Damn it! He was being peeked at. Xu Jing immediately covered his private part with his hands. He thought that the girl would be startled and scream, but instead a sweet and seductive voice rang out, "Young master, save me." Before Xu Jing could figure out what was going on, she floated across the pond towards him and buried herself in his chest. Xu Jing was sweating cold bullets of sweat. While his 2 hands were busy, she looked up at him with breathtaking eyes, her cheeks blushing pink, her 2 arms clinging tightly to Xu Jing. She buried her head in his chest while pouting, "Young master, please save me. I'm the one who needs saving." Xu Jing felt like weeping. She was fast. In the blink of an eye she had already sneaked up on him. If she was an assassin he'd already be dead. Sensing the soft sensation coming from the girl's body as she snuggled up to him, a certain part of Shu Jing's body hardened, gently poking her. The girl, however, only shouted cutely, "Young master, watch out behind you." Roar! A fierce roar echoed across the forest and a massive brightly colored tiger appeared. Its open jaws revealed a pair of long sharp fangs. Its eyes golden, its mouth exuding a foul, bloody stench. Heavens, what kind of tiger is this? Shu Jing quietly wondered. Roar! The tiger roared once more, causing waves to appear in the water. The overwhelming roar nearly made Shu Jing fell over. Shu Jing glanced at the area where his clothes and silver blade were as he slowly retreated. The tiger revealed its fangs and pounced forward. Shu Jing immediately hugged the girl tightly and jumped backward. He jumped over 5 meters high, shocking the girl in his arms. Making it to other side, he quickly headed for his pistol, but the tiger was fierce and rapidly attacked him. Shu Jing could only use his legs as a shield. The tiger ferociously bit down at his leg, causing Shu Jing to suffer unimaginable pain. Shu Jing bit his lips until it bled. Luckily, his willpower was stronger than the pain. He continued to struggle to reach out for the stone where his silver blade lied. His fingers managed to finally grasp the pistol. Bang bang! 2 consecutive bullets were shot. The shots penetrated the tiger's skull. Now, it had 2 glaring bloodied holes in its forehead. The light in its eyes began to dim, as its body shook several times before finally dropping onto the ground. The girl looked at Shu Jing with a pale expression and said, "Are you all right?" It was strange if he was all right. He felt like all the bones in his legs were broken apart. He awkwardly stuttered, "Let me get dressed first." Only now did the girl realize that Shu Jing wasn't wearing any clothes. Her face reddened, but she still hastily picked up the clothes Shu Jing left on the ground and said, "Let me help you put on your clothes." Strange pants. The girl stared incredulously at Shu Jing's underwear. She has never seen this kind of clothing. With his underwear being inspected so closely by a girl, Shu Jing's wanted to bury his head in a hole. He quickly snatched it from her and rebuked angrily, "Turn around so I can do it myself." The girl giggled cutely. "What do you think you are doing?" Suddenly a furious voice sounded out. It was Lin Yingmei who had rushed back after hearing the commotion from afar. Seeing the 2 drenched people next to the pond, she immediately leapt forward with the Arctic Star Serpent spear. The young girl gave a startled cry, but before she could respond, an icy cold spear has already made its way to her neck. When Lin Yingmei saw the wound on Shu Jing's leg, her eyes overflowed with killing intent. "Calm down, I was attacked by that tiger over there." Shu Jing didn't want to go through the farce of having Lin Yingmei kill his damsel by accident right after he finished saving her from distress. Seeing Shu Jing struggle to put on his clothes due to the pain of his leg, Lin Yingmei retrieved her spear and walked next to Shu Jing to help him get changed. The girl breathed out in relief, her eyes looking strangely at Lin Yingmei. In terms of fighting, Lin Yingmei was second to none. But when it came to servicing others, she didn't know where to start. She really was like a pampered princess. Her hands that could expertly wield the Arctic Star Serpent spear were currently fumbling to button up Shu Jing's pants. She really didn't know where to look. This was the first time Shu Jing had 2 young ladies waiting for him to get changed. Naturally, he was affected. After a while, the beet-red Lin Yingmei finally finished helping Shu Jing put on his clothes. "Why did you lead the tiger here?" Lin Yingmei looked at the girl disdainfully. "I'm really sorry, I really didn't mean to." The girl clapped her hands together and repeatedly bowed in apology. Forget it. Shu Jing didn't want to delve into these small matters. Instead, he was a lot more interested in the colorful metallic beast. Are all the animals in this Liangshan continent this formidable? This maiden's name is Song Lu. I came from a nearby village. Why don't young master follow me to my village to get treatments for your injury? Song Lu said, full of concern. Xu Jing nodded. With his current condition, no matter where he went it would be difficult to get anything done. Lin Yingmei grunted coldly. She stored the body of the Blossom Steel Tiger inside her astral bag. Turning around, she planned to give her master a shoulder to lean on. However, before she could, Song Lu had already made her way to Xu Jing's side. Your artifact is so impressive. It took out the tiger just like that. Whether intentionally or not, Song Lu's soft and firm chest was repeatedly brushing up against Xu Jing's arm as they walked. Xu Jing looked at Song Lu's shy expression. He suddenly remembered his earlier conversation with Lin Yingmei about the leader star. Suddenly, a strange thought occurred to him. Could she be Song Jiang? Young master, what are you thinking about? Song Lu whispered. My name is Xu Jing, my partner is Lin Yingmei. Xu Jing answered. She is so heroic. Song Lu said with reverence. Xu Jing nodded. Did young master save my life because you want me to repay your kindness by devoting myself to you, as a faithful servant? The girl softly asked. I don't have that kind of intention. Xu Jing shook his head. Well, if young master needs a ride, this maiden can help. Song Lu shyly continued. What kind of horse is it? Xu Jing frowned. The girl blushed even more. She laughed coyly as she whispered, well, the kind only for you to ride. This damn succubus is the legendary Song Jiang. No way in hell. Xu Jing's eyes twitched in turmoil, his stomach aching ceaselessly. Liked it? There were over 100 families residing in Song Clan village. It gave Xu Jing the impression of an ordinary village, with barking dogs, crowing roosters and kitchen chimney smoke in the air. Song Lu went to look for the sole physician in the village to heal Xu Jing, who applied a medicine called exhaustive tendons powder on his wounds. He was told that he would completely recover after resting for 3 to 4 days. The physician also praised Xu Jing's resilient body. If a normal person was bit by a Blossom Steel Tiger, their bones would have been shattered to pieces, and some would even be disabled for the rest of their life. Instead, Xu Jing survived with a mere flesh wound. News of Xu Jing's slaying of the Blossom Steel Tiger quickly spread throughout the village. It seemed like this beast had previously caused no small amount of damage to this village. All the young men and women of the village came to ask about Xu Jing. If not for Lin Yingmei's cold and intimidating figure, Song Lu's house would have already collapsed. Song Lu suggested that Xu Jing should stay here and rest until he completely recovered. Yingmei felt partially responsible for this matter, so she did not object. Xu Jing could only go with the flow and settled in. Young master, do you need anything? My body belong is yours to command. Just treat me like cattle. Song Lu blinked while smiling flirtatiously. Hearing her words, Lin Yingmei furrowed her eyebrows. She did not like the way Song Lu talked one bit. Are there any books here? It would be great if you could find me a couple of books about the Liangshan continent. Xu Jing asked, ignoring not to hear her. Currently, there were too many mysteries in this Liangshan continent. Lin Yingmei did not carry any such text on her body, and she was not suitable for teaching him. Know your enemy and yourself and you shall be invincible. How could he not understand this simple principle from Sun Tzu's Art of War? Let me go ask for you. In the blink of an eye, Song Lu had already skipped out of the room. Master, you must not let your guard down. Waiting for her to finally leave, Lin Yingmei unreservedly reminded Xu Jing. Do you think she is a star knight? Xu Jing asked. This servant cannot sense any trace of star energy coming from her. There's a possibility that she has an extremely high cultivation and is able to conceal her strength. Of course, she could also be a normal person. Lin Yingmei shook her head. She did not possess extraordinary observing abilities. The only way for her to tell if someone was a star knight or not is to fight against them. I think she has many similarities to star knights. Shu Jing smiled and said. Lin Yingmei was puzzled. Why does Master say so? Basically, she has this strange leisurely aura to her. Shu Jing thought about how, ever since he met her, she has never for one moment seemed ordinary. Unlike normal people, she seems to have training and experience. Even if she could not take care of the blossoming steel tiger, she seemed to be sure she would be able to escape safely in the end. Being a soldier himself, Shu Jing's intuitions was very sensitive about these matters. 9 out of 10 times his suspicions were always correct. Lin Yingmei seemed to be deep in thought. With a cold voice she said, should we get rid of her? She has no bloodthirst. Shu Jing has pondered about the reason why the girl was able to approach him so closely without causing him alarm. The reason was she did not seem to be hiding a trace of killing intent. No matter who they were, while harboring ill thoughts they will not be able to completely conceal their killing intent, and Shu Jing was the type who could read his opponents well. She did not have ill intents, so he did not hesitate to catch the falling Song Lu. This time, this servant really messed up. No need to worry, a man who can withstand pain is a true man. Shu Jing waved his hand. I also cannot always be protected by you, this was a good opportunity for me to train. Lin Yingmei did not disagree. As the majestic star panther head, she thought the words spoken by Shu Jing were truly worthy of the rightful master of Lin Chong. In a moment, Song Lu came back into the room, carrying with her several bags. Looking at her dragging so many heavy bags, Shu Jing laughed. Song Lu, don't tell me you have taken every single book in the entire village here. That's right. These are all books that have been in our village since ancient times, some of them were even given by the village chief, and all of these are for young master to peruse. Song Lu's cheeks revealed shining dimples as she smiled. You didn't steal all of these, right? Of course not. Hearing that young master wishes to read books, everybody in the village all gathered what they could. You are this village's savior, so it is only natural. Song Lu laughed. I heard there are even some ancient hidden manuals in here, but many people in our village have already tried and failed to comprehend them. Manuals? Hearing this, Shu Jing's eyes brightened. Currently, his biggest problem was that he lacked cultivation manuals. One must know, if a star cultivator had the help of a powerful soul technique or martial art, their strength would greatly increase. But when Shu Jing thought about how Song Lu casually said she had found some cultivation manuals, a suspicion grew in his heart. How could he be so lucky to randomly run into some top-notch cultivation manual? Finished reading the cultivation manuals Song Lu has brought him, Shu Jing felt like a bucket of cold water was splashed all over his head. What kind of legendary cultivation manual is this? What the heck are Traversing the Heavens and Earth Lone Supreme Technique, Annihilating Brainless Palm, or Overturning Oceans and Rivers Wave Unleashing Tactics? The names were crude enough, but the contents themselves were even worse. In order to practice the Lone Supreme Technique, one must first castrate themselves. The Annihilating Brainless Palm requires one to annihilate their own brain first, while the Wave Unleashing Tactics is just a damn lecher technique. What's more, there was one called 9 Revolution Indestructible Golden Body, which requires one to die first to cultivate it. Heavens! But he did found something that interested him. The Chaotic Tail Escape Technique, whose author is the Golden Toad's spiritual master. The name sounds quite mysterious, but more importantly, the manual was comprehensive and clearly explained the training process step by step. At a glance one could tell this manual was very useful. It was ordered logically in a standardized format. Especially important is that it lists star energy as a requirement for cultivating it. Furthermore, according to the manual, this escape technique was truly powerful. It could make even gods and demons weep in vain. This was a technique against the heavens. Even if the user's body was incomplete and they are barely hanging on to life, as long as one still has a glimmer of consciousness, they will be able to escape. Even a powerful enemy can only stand back and sigh. This escape technique requires strong willpower to completely resist the surrounding interference, or it will be all for naught. Xu Jing found this manual to be very suitable, so he asked Lin Yingmei and Song Lu about the Golden Toad's spiritual master. Song Lu was not clear on who he was, and even after half a day of thinking, Yingmei could only say that it seems the spiritual master was most likely a wandering expert who had recorded down his findings for the later generations. This was enough to reassure Xu Jing, no matter what, he will just give it a try first. According to the book, one's body must be injured in order to train this technique. If the body is completely unharmed, it will always fail. Xu Jing was still determined to try it out. Luckily, his legs were still wounded. Next, Xu Jing began to train following the chaotic tail escape technique manual. First, he must gather all his star energy and use it to attack his injuries. Being wounded is the most major requirement of this move, and once he had gathered all his power at the right place, he must then force it to ravage his body from inside and out. The star energy in his body began to sharpen as they head towards his leg and attacking it ceaselessly, causing him to experience unimaginable pain. God damn, it hurts. Xu Jing's eyes widened. He gasped and swallowed a mouthful of cold air. Liked it? Standing next to him, Lin Yingmei's throat became dry and the knuckles on her fists turned ghostly white. She was worried that something unfortunate would happen to Xu Jing. Less than a minute later, Xu Jing released the star energy blade and the pain subsided gradually. His forehead was drenched with sweat. This escape technique is really too strange. Xu Jing thought quietly. This was only the beginning stage. According to Golden Toad's spiritual master's teachings, chaotic tail escape technique is divided into 7 gates of 7, or 49 gates in total. In other words, his star energy must bombard his injuries 49 times, each time the pain will increase by 30%. Only when his entire body was covered in wounds and he was at the point of near death, would the chaotic tail escape technique reach the large success stage. Furthermore, this technique can only be trained 3 times a day. According to the author, this was the limit for cultivators, forcefully training it further would result in death. Xu Jing finally understood why this manual was covered in dust when he found it. Nobody would care about this pointless technique that requires you to suffer so greatly from the very beginning. Master, perhaps you should give it up. Lin Yingmei said in distress. Song Lu also seemed to be scared. You probably shouldn't try to learn this, I have never heard of anyone successfully learning it before. I don't believe that I will not be able to learn this technique today. Xu Jing snorted. He was still going to learn it, not because it was an exceptional movement technique, but because it had awakened his innate stubbornness. Xu Jing always thought that when it comes to determination, he was second to none, yet he still screamed out loud before. As an elite soldier, this was a great dishonor. Xu Jing will stop only when he can't try anymore. Let's see if this technique is really that magical. He then continued. The second time, he was still able to endure the pain. The third time, he was also able to hold on. Xu Jing was still able to think clearly, and he thought that he would go against the manual and attempt it the 4th time. This time, however, the pain was almost like he had died and been reborn, his body felt like it was immersed in fire. But he still gnashed his teeth and held on. This startled both Lin Yingmei and Song Lu. After 4 rounds, the first gate of the chaotic tail 49 gates was broken through. Xu Jing was truly at his limits. The following days, Xu Jing diligently practiced the chaotic tail escape technique while sustaining his wounds. After suffering through the daily life-threatening self-torture, he did not waste the rest of his time, but instead the hundreds of books Song Lu had brought him were cleanly read through as if he was a book-starved madman. Even after going through that unimaginable pain every day, he still spent so much time learning. With this kind of willpower, even Lin Yingmei was startled. But this daily grueling training has actually served to increase Xu Jing's willpower even more, and the process of learning the chaotic tail technique became easier and easier. On the 7th day, Xu Jing was delighted to find out that he had broken through the 10th gate, and his progress in the technique was now at the small success stage. A day later, after Xu Jing had experienced his daily mind-numbingly painful 4 rounds of training, he laid down on a hammock and read the Liangshan Heroes, a historical romance novel. It's a blend of facts and fiction recounting of famous heroes in this land in the past thousands of years, and while the information can be unreliable at best, it was still a good read for those wanting to learn the basic history of the continent. After memorizing it from cover to cover, Xu Jing casually picked up another book. The name of the book was Song Village Secrets. The name of the book seems like it was just a common introductory text to Song Village. However, as his eyes glazed over it, something suddenly caught his interest. They even have one of those here. Xu Jing happily shouted. Lin Yingmei, who was practicing her spear technique, stopped in her tracks and turned to Xu Jing. Master, what are you talking about? Just then, Song Lu also came inside the yard. Xu Jing asked, Song Lu, is what's written in this book true? Song Lu came closer and took a look. The text Xu Jing was referring to was the part about the history of the village. Apparently, during the 3rd year of the Star Duel, an enlightened monk had gone to Song Clan village and hired people to build a mountain lake legacy. Whoever solves his legacy would obtain his most precious soul technique. I have heard of this before. We are near the mountain lake valley, and I believe that the reason the valley was named so was due to this story. Song Lu said after thinking for some time. Bring me to look at it. Xu Jing was very eager to try his hand this monument. It hasn't been long since he has solved the Relic Blade Legacies puzzle, and he was still not very satisfied. But young master, your leg. Xu Jing smiled. He pointed at the distance with his finger. His figure shook, and in the blink of an eye he was already over dozens of meters away. Both the girl were shocked. Song Lu seemed almost afraid, while Lin Yingmei was excited. Master, you have successfully learnt the chaotic tail escape technique? Yeah, some small successes. I should not have any trouble with moving within 1,000 meters. Xu Jing laughed heartily. Young master, you are so impressive. Song Lu was stunned. But the name of this move is really quite bad. Later on, when I reach the large success stage, I must change its name. Xu Jing said, Song Lu, let us depart for the mountain lake valley to have a look. Song Lu looked up at the sky at the setting sun and said, why don't we go tomorrow? Today is already getting late, and the mountain lake valley is also not very safe. Furthermore, young master has already gone through hard training today, and still needs to rest. Xu Jing thought that was reasonable. If they tripped some sort of trap, not being at their optimal state could really harm them. The next day, after breakfast, Song Lu brought Xu Jing and Lin Yingmei towards the mountain lake valley as promised. On the way, Xu Jing listened to Song Lu's stories and rumors about the mountain lake valley. There was a time when the mountain lake legacy was renowned all over the Liangshan continent, because the enlightened monk was definitely a powerful individual. His soul technique was called the Destroying Thousand Worlds technique, and countless star cultivators has once swarmed this place for a chance to obtain it. The valley has even seen its fair share of great battles resulting from the legacy's existence. But in the few hundred years, its attractions slowly dwindle. After a sufficient amount of time, some rare artifacts or techniques would lose the guarantee of strength it once did, and its luster would dim. This mountain lake legacy has never been solved by anyone. Eventually this legacy along with stories about the enlightened monk was forgotten with time. If nobody has broken through it, wouldn't that mean it should be even more attractive to others? Xu Jing was puzzled by the behavior of the Liangshan continent's cultivators. I don't know, but I hear that the legacy is just here to deceive people. Song Lu laughed. Deceive people? That's right, Song Village also used to have a formidable star cultivator who had ventured inside the legacy. Afterwards, when people mentioned it, he would just curse endlessly. Song Lu said, others also became curious and went to have a look. What was the result? They just agreed wholeheartedly with him. Song Lu replied. The more I hear about it, the more interesting it seems. The more difficult it is, the stronger his stubborn nature appears. Before heading there, they all acted like the current young master. Afterwards, however, it was a different story. Song Lu winked at him and said, "Oh yeah, there is also a riddle attached to this legacy. Understanding this might be the key to discovering the legacy's secret." "What riddle?" Song Lu stroked her cheeks in deep thought, and then recited after some time. "See mountains as mountains, lakes as lakes, look at mountains not as mountains, lakes not as lakes. Discern that the mountains are still mountains, and lakes are still lakes." "What kind of gibberish is that?" Lin Yingmei sneered. Xu Jing shook his head and smiled. "Yingmei, you shouldn't say that. This is the three realms of life. Seems like there is something interesting here." Xu Jing lightly traded a look with Lin Yingmei before walking forwards. The three other cultivators briefly glanced at each other before parting ways and allowing him to pass through. Xu Jing smiled at them, then took Song Lu and Lin Yingmei to head inside the mountain, seemingly heading for the entrance of the legacy. Waiting until Xu Jing walked off into the distance, the three male cultivators then brought out their weapons, intending to head back inside the ruins of the legacy. "Everybody, do not act rashly," the Daoist monk casually spoke, causing the other three cultivators to pause. "Sun Tian Daoist, what do you mean by that?" The female cultivator turned around, her expression dissatisfied. "Isn't this the best time to kill them?" The man with a shiny bald gripped his hammer and spoke while laughing maliciously. "Just a Stardust early-stage cultivator. I alone am enough to take care of them," the last male nonchalantly added. Sun Tian Daoist shook his head. He slightly waved the whisk and smiled. "Did you not notice the girl beside him? It's just a star knight, that's all." The man sneered, his eyes flashed a look of jealousy. "I want to kill them precisely because she's a star knight. Who doesn't know that killing a star knight would improve your cultivation progress immensely? It might even allow them to directly enter Liangshan Maiden Mountain," the only female cultivator said with a shrill tone. Sun Tian Daoist spoke, "I'm afraid that girl is no ordinary star knight. What do we have to fear? Just look at that star master. His strength is completely ordinary. That star knight couldn't be anyone that powerful. If it was only an uncontracted star knight then perhaps, but just look at that star maiden who would even bond with that crippled young man. Haha, there is nothing to fear, even if it was Lin Chong we would be able to handle it." Could it be that Sun Tian Daoist is actually scared? It's truly a fortune that we encounter such a useless star master and star knight. I really don't want to make this trip a complete waste. The cultivators firmly decided to pursue the star knight to gain her star energy. Sun Tian Daoist slowly spoke, "Why don't we wait for a little while more? Legend says that all legacies were created for star knights, perhaps they are able to solve the mystery of this place." The other three thought for a while and nodded in agreement. No matter what, even if that star master with a broken leg wanted to run, he would not be able to escape. Killing a Stardust early-stage cultivator was truly too easy. Thinking up to here, they headed back inside the ruins of the legacy. "Yingmei, seems like our identities have been discovered," Xu Jing whispered to Lin Yingmei. The Majestic star's face remained unchanged as she harumphed in acknowledgement. Seems like she had already anticipated such a situation to happen. Only a few stinky ants, there's no need to worry. Hearing Lin Yingmei, Xu Jing only laughed and said no more, his eyes once again focused on the ruins of the legacy. Scenes of mountains and lakes decorated the walls of the hallway, but due to the passage of time as well as destruction by humans, the mural was damaged. One could still faintly make out the mountain, pagoda, waterfall, trees and other greeneries. Seeing mountains as mountains, lakes as lakes. Look at mountains not as mountains, lakes not as lakes. He wondered about the mystery behind this mural and the clue. Because Xu Jing had previously solved the Relic Blade Legacy's puzzle from observation alone, Lin Yingmei felt a rare sense of anticipation within her heart. In her mind, she completely ignored this legacy and solely concentrated on Xu Jing as he searched for clues. While looking around, Xu Jing suddenly frowned. He stopped in his tracks and calmly spoke, "What do you people need?" Lin Yingmei and Song Lu turned around to look. The group they had met outside the ruins of the legacy had all stepped out from the shadows. Apart from the Daoist, they all exuded an aura of contempt towards Xu Jing. The Daoist then stepped forward and laughed, "It seems like you have been injured, friend. I know some healing arts that may be able to help you." "No need." Xu Jing straightforwardly rejected his offer, surprising Sun Tian. Even though he didn't actually want to help Xu Jing, being rejected suddenly still caught him off guard. "It's only a minor wound, there's no reason to trouble yourself, Daoist," Xu Jing explained. "This one is called Sun Tian Daoist. I wonder, what should I call you two friends?" "I'm Xu Jing, this is Lin Yingmei, and that is Song Lu." Xu Jing introduced his group in order. Knowing that there was a Song clan village nearby, these cultivators once again ignored Song Lu. They fixated their gazes on Lin Yingmei. Sun Tian used this opportunity and excitedly spoke with Xu Jing. He was pretending to be considerate while attempting to bring up the subject of how Xu Jing had gotten injured. Xu Jing could tell that he was only trying to figure out his background. In the military, he had already been through the interrogation and anti-interrogation training, and the tricks these people attempted to use in front of him was truly laughable. Xu Jing used this chance to turn their ploy against them. While avoiding to disclose any sensitive information, he began to ask them about themselves. After speaking for some time, Sun Tian Daoist finally noticed something was off. His face changed as he laughed out loud. "I heard that the expert had left behind a mysterious riddle about this place, and solving it would lead to the solution of this mountain lake riddle. We should carefully look around here once more, and perhaps we might find some useful clues." "Good idea," Xu Jing answered casually. In reality, his mind was fixated on the legacy the entire time. The longer Xu Jing observed the design of this mountain lake legacy, the more intrigued he was. "Liked it?" The mountain lake legacy had quite an interesting design. The walls were decorated with painted murals and carvings, vaguely hinting at a glorious past. At the end of a long hallway, there was a square room. The room had been stripped clean of valuables. The only things left were the illustrations of mountains and lakes on its walls. There was, however, a single lengthy block of stone lying still within the room. The stone was of the common kind found at waterfalls. On it, a saying was carved. "See mountains as mountains, lakes as lakes, look at mountains not as mountains, lakes not as lakes. Discern that the mountains are still mountains, and lakes are still lakes." This seems to be in a strangely shabby state. Xu Jing spoke. After lingering in the room for some time, he began to stare at the mural that was about to crumble at a moment's notice. "Friend, I heard that previously there were many cultivators who failed to solve the riddle of this legacy. They had turned this place upside down, not sparing even a small pebble, but they still failed to find the soul technique the expert had left behind." Sun Tian smiled and explained. "If they damaged the room to this extent and still found nothing, the soul technique must have been found by the first person. That person must have pretended that nothing happened, leading all the others to waste their time," Xu Jing casually said. Sun Tian Daoist nodded. "That's definitely a possibility. But aren't there some hidden traps or formations here?" Xu Jing clearly remembered that the lesser relic blade he was at had hidden spirit engulfing flood dragons inside the astral gemstone. With that kind of trap, whoever entered would encounter some difficulty. But at a glance, this mountain lake legacy really seemed to be a forgotten ruin, completely broken and dilapidated. These decaying remnants caused Xu Jing to recall a saying, "All beauty withers, all pretension fades." Perhaps there used to be one, but it must have already been destroyed. Sun Tian Daoist replied. Oh, I wonder if Daoist could reveal the meaning behind this saying? Shu Jing asked. Embarrassingly, my advancement in cultivation is too little, and I am still not enlightened about this matter. Daoist. One of the male cultivators couldn't help but shout out a reminder when he saw Sun Tian Daoist and Shu Jing standing around exchanging pleasantries. Sun Tian Daoist apologized and then turned and walked off. The group of people then suppressed their voice to a low whisper, so Shu Jing failed to hear whatever else they were talking about. Shu Jing's eyes returned to the mountains and lakes on the walls of this room. Young master, have you figured out the meaning of the saying? Song Lu saw Shu Jing's contemplating expression and asked curiously. This place definitely has a strong connection with that mountain and lake saying, but unfortunately it has been destroyed to the point of being almost unrecognizable. After all these years, even if there was originally some clue, it's probably already gone. Wanting to figure it out is harder than climbing into the sky. Shu Jing replied dejectedly. Song Lu seemed somewhat disappointed. Seeing her disappointment, Shu Jing quietly chuckled in his heart. He casually asked, Song Lu, do you know the total number of sayings that are connected to this place? I heard there were 17. That many? Lin Yingmei asked in surprise. Very many. To my knowledge, some people have even found up to 30 kinds of mountain and lake sayings connected to this place. Song Lu shook her head. Shu Jing nodded, returning his attention to the mural. Everyone who entered the legacy looked at the mountain lake mural in order to find clues. However, Shu Jing was only briefly interested in it. He gave it a quick look over before moving on to other areas, his demeanor carefree. At a glance, one can tell that he was not really paying much attention. Daoist? The female cultivator's eyes were as cold as ice. Sun Tian Daoist raised his arm, signaling for them to not be too impatient. He began to put up a front of searching for clues in the legacy. When the others saw the most powerful cultivator there, the Daoist, not saying anything, their faces could only darken and they stayed quiet. A while later, Shu Jing smacked his lips in an exaggerated yawn. Yingmei, let us go, there's nothing here to see. Shu Jing turned around and left. Sun Tian Daoist greeted them, friend, have you finished viewing this place? Did you find anything interesting? It has been here for hundreds of years, yet no one has found anything. What could I and my little bit of deductive power do? Shu Jing laughed and said. His outward appearance was that of someone who had really lost all interest in this legacy. Then I really don't have any method either. The Daoist spoke regretfully. In that case, let us depart. Shu Jing brought Lin Yingmei and Song Lu to leave. Sun Tian's smile turned malicious, and he glanced at the other eyes of the other three people. They immediately followed his train of thought, revealing fierce expressions. Let's go. The four of them acted at the same time. Four small steel knives flew directly towards Shu Jing's back with no hesitation. Sounds of metal colliding rang out. The small knives were deflected by a single flash of blue light. Lin Yingmei, who was on guard this entire time, casually turned around. Without even lifting her arm, she had resolved all their attacks. Friends, what are you trying to do? Shu Jing smiled icily. Seeing Lin Yingmei easily deflecting their attacks, their faces became temporarily stunned. Only when they remembered that they all had the advantage of higher cultivation level did they calm down. We just want to be enlightened by a star master. Isn't it dangerous to walk around with your star knight in the open? Sun Tian Daoist made some small talk. Ah, star knight. What are you guys talking about? Song Lu was startled. Shu Jing looked at her for a while, then turned his unchanging expression towards the cultivators. What do you mean? Daoist, why are you wasting words with this useless cultivator? Let's directly kill him. The impatient bald cultivator threw out a hammer that was radiating intense killing intent, causing the air to turn numb. His Stardust middle stage cultivation was also no longer contained. He was really planning to kill in one move. Although he was in a narrow space without room to retreat, Xu Jing remained calm as the weapon flew toward his forehead. It even almost seemed like he was ignoring it. A sharp metallic colliding sound rang out inside the quiet legacy, a noise that was piercing to the ears. A silver spear stopped the large hammer in its tracks. There was a flash of light, and a person appeared between the hammer and Xu Jing, her hair long and flowing, her bright aura chilling to the bone. It was, of course, Lin Yingmei and her serpent spear. "I knew it, you are a star knight," the nervous cultivator shouted. "Watch as I turn you into minced meat." The large man laughed, all his strength concentrating on the hammer. The pressure he gave off was like that of a mountain. Yingmei grunted in disdain and spun the spear counterclockwise. A cold light slashed out as if it was a god of death. At that moment, the hammer was suddenly split in half. The large man's smile was immediately replaced by a stunned look. A sort of fear penetrated deep into his soul, and he scrambled to think of a way to retaliate. But a cold chill had already made its way into his heart, causing it to feel like it had frozen stiff, and completely stopped him from making any movement. There was almost no one there who could tell how this happened. Lin Yingmei gently pulled out her spear. Quietly, the spear tip that pierced directly through the large man's heart showed itself. The cultivators shook in fear. "Watch out, she's a combat star knight." Sun Tian Daoist was paying attention. At a glance he could tell Lin Yingmei was extraordinary. He immediately dashed out, releasing the aura of a late-stage cultivator with the power of a Stardust late-stage technique assisting him. The aura surrounded the narrow legacy walls. The two other cultivators also unleashed their strength. A small knife and sword followed the wind and flew towards Xu Jing. They also understood that to deal with a star knight, killing their star master was the easiest method. Lin Yingmei smiled coldly. She jumped lightly, her Arctic Star Serpent spear breaking apart their overwhelming weapons with ease. Seeing their weapons being destroyed so quickly, the cultivators' faces grew even more frightened. They now realized that the Star Knight in front of them was no ordinary Stardust early-stage cultivator. "Want to harm my master? None of you have the qualification," Lin Yingmei coldly asserted. "Liked it?" Lin Chong, she's the panther head Lin Chong. Recognizing the Arctic Star Serpent Spear, Sun Tian Daoist shouted out fearfully. "Impossible, why would Lin Chong sign a Star Dual Covenant contract?" The two remaining cultivators shook in fear. Even the face of the female cultivator who previously bragged that she could take on even Lin Chong was now deathly pale. "Don't panic, let's kill her master immediately," Sun Tian Daoist called out. He was once again the first to regain his composure. His whisk continuously spun, causing several white silk threads to rise, turning into serpents. Northern Dipper heavenly stars, immeasurable earthen towers, rise. Sun Tian mumbles, his whisk suddenly coming to life, causing thousands of white silk threads in the shape of serpents to form a massive whirlpool. From inside the whirlpool, countless serpents emerge, their power utterly terrifying. Seeing that, his two companions also pulled out their trump cards without hesitation. A turquoise bracelet flew out from the female cultivator's wrist. It quickly expanded in size by a dozen-fold, releasing a bright green aura as it flew directly towards Xu Jing. The man also took out a small metal spear blade. The tiny 3-inch blade shot out from his palm, following the wind and expanding its size to that of a large metal spear. Even though they were only low-leveled artifacts, the weapons have been infused with all of their remaining power and had an immense pressure. "Yingmei, be a little careful," Xu Jing reminded her. Yingmei's lips slightly curved into a cocky smile. Her spear flickered. Chilling beams of cold light radiated as she thrusted forward with her spear, each beam of light releasing a suction pressure towards the artifacts. The spear danced like a flower in the wind. The turquoise bracelet resounded with a crack as the spear shatters it into fragments. The extremely fast blade next to it seemed like it was going to be able to dodge Ingmei's attack, but her spear suddenly vibrated, and in the next moment the blade was cut into two by the cold blue spear light. The two cultivators panicked, even though they knew about the majestic star and her indomitable strength that was among the most powerful in the entire world. Her impenetrable attacks were beyond their expectation. What's more, right now she was being limited by the Star Dual Covenant as a contracted star. In theory, she was far from her peak strength. With fear clouding their mind, the only thought they were capable of thinking of was fleeing. "Friends, please stay." Sun Tian Daoist called out loudly. A haunting scream echoed. The female cultivator who turned around to run revealed a fatal weak point, and Ingmei took advantage of that without hesitation. Her spear shot through her chest cleanly. When the male cultivator heard the scream, he also turned to flee, but Ingmei's second attack was already upon him. Before his eyes could make out the attack, his neck suddenly felt cold, and a sharp blade directly penetrated his throat, taking his life. Fresh blood streamed out from his mouth. The male cultivator's eyes widened, as if he couldn't believe that he would die like this. Sun Tian Daoist wore an extremely ugly expression. He never thought Star Knights were that powerful. Just a quick confrontation had already cost his three companions their lives. He abandoned all hesitation and unleashed the full limit of his late-stage Stardust power. The whisk in his hand turned into countless silk serpents, completely surrounding the area. Song Lu was so scared she scrambled to hide behind Xu Jing. Ingmei pulled out the Arctic Star Serpent Spear and slashed at the serpents. The white silk immediately wrapped around her weapon. No matter how she maneuvered, the spear still wouldn't move an inch. Suddenly realizing that his move had worked, the old Daoist grinned. "My dragon-binding whisk is a nebula stage artifact. Even if you are the majestic star, it's still enough to finish you off. Thousand Threads Myriad Silk Binding Technique, go." The silk followed his commands and spun madly, as if they were all serpents leaving shore, their aura terrifying to behold. In the blink of an eye, the room was surrounded in white silk. Ingmei's Arctic Star Serpent Spear was completely wrapped up. The enemy was both a late-stage Stardust cultivator and was in possession of a nebula artifact. Even the Panther Head could only retreat back to her master's side. "Young master, let's leave. Right now, it's my turn to protect you." Xu Jing stared at the overwhelming silk serpent with abnormally calm eyes. Sun Tian Daoist smiled coldly. "Even though you are such a useless star master, you still dare to speak such arrogant words? Today this Daoist will teach you the meaning of regret." The Daoist hurriedly mumbled his chant, causing the silk threads on his whisk to grow thicker and thicker. The Arctic Star Serpent Spear that was swallowed inside the whisk released a sharp bright light, seeming like it had been weakened by the silk threads. Xu Jing's eyebrows perked. His pace forward quickened. Suddenly, his body disappeared, as if it was made from nothing but mist. Sun Tian Daoist was shocked, still in place. What kind of movement technique is this? Even though he couldn't sense the activation of any movement technique, Xu Jing still disappeared right in front of his eyes. Sun Tian Daoist quickly chanted inwardly. At that exact moment, a chilling killing intent appeared from behind. Not good. Sun Tian was terrified. From the corner of his eye, he could see Xu Jing appearing from behind, in his hand a silver artifact. Even though Sun Tian Daoist's Thousand Threads Myriad Silk Binding Technique was extremely formidable, there was a crucial weakness when used in this cramped space. While the technique could push the enemy to their death from the front, it left his back completely defenseless. Even a child could stab him to death from behind right now. Of course, no matter what, Sun Tian Daoist was a late-stage Stardust cultivator, so he would not fumble just because of such a move. Once he sensed Xu Jing's strange appearance, the Daoist quickly formed a seal with his left hand. Xu Jing lifted up the silver blade in his right hand. Bang! Dead on. Silver light flashed by, heading directly for Sun Tian Daoist right between his eyes. Sounds of the bullet passing through his skull resounded. The Daoist's jaws was stuck open, his eyes in disbelief about his own demise. It's hard to criticize him. Liangshan continent's so-called stardust artifacts were the lowest of the low in power. Perhaps by infusing them with star energy their power would increase somewhat, with some at best able to control their size. These kind of weapons would look impressive, but facing a real artifact they would be almost useless. For example, Ingmei's personal Arctic Star Serpent Spear could easily cut these apart. From the perspective of Sun Tian Daoist, Xu Jing's artifact was completely out of the ordinary. Only a loud sound was produced, then a silver light carrying star energy with it would shoot out. The speed of the silver light was abnormally fast. In a moment it was already in front of his eyes. This kind of speed, even nebulous stage artifacts would not be able to achieve it. Sun Tian did not shame his title of being a late-stage cultivator. Even after he was shot, he still refused to fall down. He screamed out, his limbs moved, waving the whisk up temporarily, shooting out silk threads. Bang! As Sun Tian Daoist was retaliating, another bullet shot through his brain. It was not possible to clearly detect the speed of such a weapon, and the silk whisk was completely incapable of stopping it. I am not satisfied. Sun Tian Daoist screams out in tears, his eyeballs bulging. He died with his eyes wide opened. The moment he died, the stream of energy connected to the silk whisk was terminated, and it promptly fell to the ground. The overwhelming pressure emitted by the serpent dissipated as it retreated back inside the whisk, transforming into a seemingly normal object. Xu Jing kissed Silver Blade lightly. He lowered his gun and went toward the Daoist's body. Ingmei breathed out softly when she saw that. She picked up the Arctic Star Serpent Spear and also approached the body. Song Lu however remained stunned in place. She was not able to see what happened due to the silk threads blocking the view of whatever happened behind the Daoist. There was only a strange loud sound, then the Daoist had fallen. Looking at Xu Jing, the fear in her eyes disappeared in a flash. Her clear eyes flickered and a strange smile appeared on her face. It was impossible to tell what she was thinking. Liked it? You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.